Please note, in order to comply with YouTube policy, this free version of the audiobook has bedroom scenes redacted. If you would like to read the full text, please get the e-book or print version of the story.
Chapter 1, Emmy. Some days I love my job and my life. Today is not one of those days. This is the kind of day that makes me wonder why I struggle to get by in the tropical Florida Keys. It's the tiring type of day that makes me want to give up, tuck tail, and move back home to Georgia. But I won't do that. I can't. I refuse to give my parents the satisfaction of knowing they were right when they told me that moving to Key Largo to become a dolphin trainer was a crazy pipe dream that would leave me broke, exhausted, and feeling like something important is missing from my life. I try to blow the sweat off my forehead, but the tiny hairs that have escaped my tight ponytail are stuck to my face. I use the back of my hand to swipe them out of the way, but end up just smearing the dampness across my skin. A giant mosquito lands on my thigh, just below the hem of my neoprene shorty wetsuit. I slap at the bug and am relieved to see that I smashed it, until I notice the gooey spot of blood on my skin. Guess I was too late. Again. It's a wonder I have any blood left, considering how many times the enormous suckers which seem to thrive down here bite me on a typical day. The mangrove-sheltered lagoon where I work is a breeding ground for them. Even though sprayers come by regularly, they can't seem to control the ever-growing mosquito population in this area. I'd complain, but I hate the thought of any more contaminants going into the water. The dolphins who come here to interact with us and get their free food don't need any more challenges. The 3 bottlenose dolphins, who are regular visitors here, make every inconvenience and challenge I face worthwhile. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the sleek, beautiful creatures, but Star, Einstein, and Crush are special. We named them based on their unique personalities. Star, the only female of the group, loves to preen and pose. She truly appears to smile for the cameras, which makes her a favorite of visiting tourists. Einstein is brilliant. He is amazing at doing tricks and solving puzzles. When I look into his eyes, I can practically see the wheels turning inside his brain. He's definitely the thinker of the group. My favorite of the 3 is Crush, although I would never let the other 2 know that. As his name implies, he is both an affectionate lovey-dovey and a bit of a brute. He will bully the other 2 out of the way to get more attention and rub downs from me. Although I probably shouldn't like it, there's no denying how much I enjoy having him be so desperate for my attention. It's not as if any males of the human variety are knocking down my door, so I guess having a dolphin adore me is the next best thing. The dolphins can come and go from our facility as they please, through an underground tunnel that is always accessible and open to them. That's one of the reasons I wanted to work here specifically. I wouldn't enjoy working at a place where the animals were trapped, with no way out to the open ocean. Our dolphins are wild and free. They leave sometimes, but they always come back. Granted, I make a mean fish bucket, but I like to think they come here for more than just the top-notch cuisine. As I turn to leave for the evening, Crush splashes water to get my attention. I walk to the edge of the lagoon. It's obvious by the look in his eyes that he wants me to come for a nighttime swim with him. Anyone who thinks animals can't communicate with humans has never had a dolphin pleading for attention. I try to ignore the beautiful creature, so he lets out a whistle. I've been with you all day. I'm tired, and I need to go home. Even as I'm saying the words, I know he's going to win me over. I love these animals so much that I can't deny them anything that's within my power to give them. Star swims alongside Crush and adds her begging eyes into the mix. Setting down the empty metal fish buckets, I say, "Okay, you guys win. I can't resist you." The dolphins squeal and click with excitement as I stride to the end of the dock and dive headfirst into the lagoon. When I float on my back, they do the same on either side of me. I reach out to hold their pectoral fins, and suddenly a complete sense of calm washes over me. The night sky is just starting to emerge, and the cool water is peaceful and relaxing. My stress level plummets as I take deep breaths and float with the relaxed animals. In a quiet voice, I murmur, "Okay, you guys were right. This is exactly what I needed." I giggle when I feel the rush of water below me as Einstein swims beneath us, hoping to join in our little party. These dolphins have accepted me into their pod, as if I am one of their own. Deciding to be grateful, rather than bitter, I close my eyes and enjoy knowing that life can't possibly get much better than this. The man's deep voice startles me out of my relaxed state. I can't make out what he's saying since my ears are submerged in the water. I bolt upright, and the dolphins dart away. Our bonding moment of solitude is completely shattered. When I swim closer to the dock where the impeccably dressed man is standing, recognition immediately sets in. Savvy billionaire, Dane Wilder is a household name, but I'm even more acutely aware of who he is, since he recently purchased this facility as part of a broader land grab in Key Largo. Stress has been high among my coworkers at this sanctuary, as we all wonder what the new owner's plans are for us. Chances are high that he'll shut us down in favor of building a more lucrative housing or commercial development. Not wanting to fan the flames of the pompous man's ego, I pretend that I don't recognize him. Making my face an emotionless mask, I ask in an all-business tone, "Can I help you with something?" His dark manicured brows raise slightly. He appears bemused that I don't immediately know who he is. He's likely used to women falling at his feet the moment he makes an appearance. Determined not to play into his oversized ego, I glare up at him as I dog paddle in the water. Quickly recovering, he grabs a large colorful beach towel, unfolds it and holds it out in my direction. It's a sweet gesture, but there's no way I'm going to let this charmer worm his way into my heart. Allowing him to gallantly wrap me in a towel seems risky, so I stay right where I am and say firmly, "I'm not getting out of the water right now." His soft-looking lips purse slightly. I'm sure he's used to having people trip over themselves to do what he wants, but I refuse to give him that kind of control. Setting the towel aside, he says,
"As you wish."
He steps to the edge of the dock so he can speak in a normal voice, without having to yell for me to hear him.
"I have a business proposition for you, Emmy Scott."
It's shocking that he knows my name, and I can't deny that I'm intrigued by his words, but I force my features and tone to remain neutral as I say, "I'm listening." Before the billionaire gets a chance to explain further, Crush swims past the dock, swishes his tail several times and soaks the man in his super expensive-looking tailored suit with seawater.
Chapter 2 Dane. I can't believe that blasted animal just drenched me with salt water. If I didn't know any better, I would swear, based on the ornery look in his eyes, that he did it on purpose. Perhaps he's jealous that I'm chatting with his beautiful trainer. I suppose I can't blame him for that. She's the kind of woman who, without even seeming to realize it, makes males feel protective and possessive. Although I swipe at my dark business suit with a beach towel, it's a lost cause. The famous designer who customized it for me would probably be appalled that the luxurious suit, with a higher price tag than many people earn in a year, is soaked in smelly, salty water. My ruined clothes are annoying, but it's not like I have a shortage of tailored suits in my room-sized closet at home. Before coming to this facility, I had considered stopping by the Canal Front House I recently purchased in Key Largo to change into something more casual from the duffel bag I brought with me on the private jet, but I'd been too excited to talk to Emmy to put it off a moment longer than necessary. Now, I'm wishing I'd changed into shorts and a t-shirt before coming here. Emmy struggles to keep a straight face after my dousing. She truly doesn't seem to recognize me, which is oddly refreshing. I've quickly gotten used to everyone I meet already having preconceived notions about me, even before we've spoken a word to each other. Having strangers feel like they already know me, thanks to the vast fortune I've built, and the notoriety that comes along with having that kind of money, is part of the package with being super rich. It is a bit odd that this particular woman doesn't recognize me though, since I recently purchased this waterside establishment in a highly publicized, landmark deal. I would have thought the employees here would be watching the news and biting their fingernails as they wait for any updates on my plans for the future of their workplace. 3 dolphins surround Emmy in the water and eye me warily, as if they are worried that she might need protection from me. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for the intelligent marine mammals, but this trio seems to not like or trust me for some reason. Perhaps they sense that their sanctuary is soon going to be part of an opulent and exclusive billionaire's retreat. My executive team advised me against moving forward with the large development project. They didn't like the optics of making yet another place for the wealthiest people in the world to hide away, but the Florida Keys have always been special to me. One of the best memories from my teen years involves a rare family vacation to this tropical paradise, during which I earned my scuba diving certification. Even as a surly teenager, I had been in awe of the amazing, colorful world that thrives on the coral reef just below the surface of the water, a few miles off the coast of Key Largo. I decided right then that I would find a way to make enough money to have a home here one day. I didn't have any idea how I would do it, but I was determined to become successful enough to luxuriate in the lavish lifestyle that I imagined everyone down here enjoyed. Somewhere along the way, I got sidetracked from that primary goal. I have earned enough money to buy half the island, yet I only recently purchased property here. I'm not sure why I let myself get distracted from my why, but I'm in the process of making that up to my lonely teenaged self. Emmy glares up at me as she dog paddles in the water. It's obvious that she's growing impatient with waiting for me to explain my proposal. Focusing my attention back on the drenched but still lovely woman, I start. I've been challenged by a friend to rough it for a month on the salary of my lowest paid employee. The woman openly glares at me.
Let me guess, that's me. What an honor.
Sarcasm drips from her tone. Somehow, she's even more adorable when she's perturbed. I'm grinning like a fool as I nod my head to confirm that she's correct.
You're a business tycoon, so you probably have hundreds of employees, and I'm the low woman on the totem pole?
So she does recognize me. I'm not sure whether to be thrilled by the realization or concerned that she tried to hide it, but delighted seems to be winning the war in my suddenly muddled brain. Actually, the Wilder Enterprises conglomerate employs over 50,000 people. I can't keep the pride out of my voice. I've worked hard and smart to get where I am, and I'm happy to be able to provide solid, dependable jobs for so many people. Emmy gapes at me, and suddenly it dawns on me how this must feel to her. Hoping to backtrack a bit, I add, I only recently purchased this place, so my team hasn't had a chance yet to evaluate compensation packages.
Compensation packages?
Emmy makes a strange scoff snort sound in her throat.
Does that include our free use of these holy wetsuits that smell like pee?
I cringe as she thumbs the neoprene shorty she's wearing. I'd walked past a hanging rack of them on the way out here, and noticed that they'd definitely seen better days. Rather than waiting, I retrieve my cell phone from my pocket and tap out a quick text message to Lisa, my efficient and irreplaceable executive assistant. Lisa immediately responds, even though it's well after normal working hours. We'll have new visitor and crew wetsuits delivered in the morning. I smile at Emmy, happy that I could so easily take care of this thorn in her side. Emmy's eyebrows shoot up toward her wet hairline.
Just like that?
She raises a hand out of the water to snap her fingers. Yep, I answer, proud of myself.
Wow.
She sounds impressed, which makes me confident that I'm already winning her over, until she adds,
I'm going to have to agree with your friend. There is no way that you can live like a regular person for an entire month.
I splay my hands as I say, I am a regular person. At her arched brow that silently calls bull, I amend my statement to, okay, I used to be a regular person. I remember what it's like to have to get creative, because money is tight.
I'm sure you think you remember, but you've gone soft.
She whispers something to each of the dolphins before swimming toward the dock's ladder. I want to be annoyed with her. She doesn't know me, and I don't appreciate her accusation. The only problem is, I think she might be right. Rather than firing back a retort, I hold a towel open for her and ask, will you help me? I'd been expecting her to ask what is in it for her, so her response surprises me. After grabbing the towel, without allowing me to wrap her in it, she says,
"I will."
She saunters down the dock without turning back. I remain there for a long moment watching her hips sway as she leaves, then I do the only thing that makes any sense. I race after her.
Chapter 3. I'm trying to act calm and cool, but I'm in way over my head here. I'm just a struggling girl next door type of person. I have no idea how to handle a powerful billionaire. The fact that he is asking me for help with roughing it is mind-boggling and, honestly, a bit insulting. There is no denying that my lifestyle is far from lavish, but it's not that bad. I have a fun and interesting career that fulfills me in a way that working in a corporate cubicle never would. Plus, I live in paradise. Not many people can say that. Granted, my studio apartment is tiny and the sputtering wall unit air conditioner can't keep up with the blazing heat when the sun begins to set, but the west-facing space is functional and provides me with all I need. Having someone doubt his ability to survive on my salary for a single month is humiliating. It's not like I'm eating cans of cat food. Granted, some weeks I end up eating nothing but ramen noodles for a few days until payday rolls back around, but lots of people do that. I take more time than normal showering off the lagoon gunk and blow-drying my hair. It's not every day that I hang out with one of the most famous and wealthy men in the world. In fact, this is a definite first, so I don't want to look or smell like a slug. If he's gone when I finally emerge from the staff locker rooms, then this clearly wasn't meant to be. It will be a sign from the universe that I'm better off not getting to know the handsome, powerful man. After all, it's likely going to take every bit of willpower I can muster to keep from falling for him during the next 30 days. But I must protect my heart at all costs, because I know without a doubt that after this month is over, he will gleefully go back to his posh lifestyle and forget all about me. The chances of me ever being able to forget about him are practically zero, but this month will likely give me a treasure trove of interesting stories and warm memories to clutch onto in the future, when I see a glossy magazine photo of the charismatic man with a perfect model or dazzling movie star on his arm. Staring at my reflection in the mirror, I lift my chin and remind myself to remain strong. If I can show Dane how wonderful this facility is, as well as the grand service we provide to both the dolphins and human guests that visit, perhaps I can save all of our jobs and even score us a few cushy upgrades, like the new wetsuits that are already coming. When I emerge from the female employee's dressing room, Dane gives me a wide, devilishly handsome smile, as if he isn't in the slightest bit perturbed about the extended wait. I remind myself to hold back and keep a wall between us, even as my cheeks warm and I return his happy grin. Once I'm close enough, he asks,
"How about if we pop by Sunsets for dinner? Does that sound okay?"
It sounds fantastic. Sunsets is a local favorite, due to its pristine sandy beach area, fresh seafood and relaxed outdoor bar. It's also one of the more expensive restaurants in the area, and I've only ever eaten there on special occasions. Giving him a half smile, I say, "That sounds more than okay, but if you're really going to live off of my salary for 30 days, then we can't afford it." Comprehension dawns in his expression, and I can tell that he truly hadn't given the cost of the extravagant meal a single thought. I can't imagine living that way, since the price is always the first thing that I consider with everything. Giving me a confident grin, Dane slings a casual arm around me, steers me toward the parking lot and suggests,
"Let's start the timer for the bet tomorrow."
I can't contain the surprised chuckle that emerges. Disarmingly charming doesn't begin to describe this confident, gorgeous man. I'm going to need to stay on high alert with my walls securely in place to keep from falling for him. He offers to drive me to the restaurant in his sleek sports car, but I don't want to leave my trusty old beater behind. If I count on Dane for a ride and he changes his mind about slumming it here with me, I'll be stranded. I'm not in the least bit surprised to learn that the billionaire drives way too fast. I don't even bother to try to keep up with him, since I know exactly where I'm going. Besides, I would probably be the one to get pulled over and issued a speeding ticket, even though he's the one who could easily afford to pay the fine. I make use of the drive time to the restaurant to practice some calming deep breathing techniques. My jitters want to kick my heart rate into overdrive. After all, it's not every day that an infamous, charming billionaire strolls in and offers to spend a month in my life. Shaking my head, I remind myself to stay focused on the tasks at hand by using this month with him to convince him of the merits of our facility. With any luck, by the end of our time together, Dane will grow to truly care about the fate of my coworkers and the well-being of the dolphins we all love so much. If he has any heart at all inside that thick chest, we will win him over and make him determined to keep our quaint Bayside operation open with some much-needed upgrades to the facilities. I need to keep personal feelings out of the equation. Falling for him would end up muddying the waters of our employer-employee relationship and make him uncomfortable when it's time for him to return to his cushy life. It shouldn't be any problem for me to keep him at arm's length while introducing him to the important work we do. After I pull into the restaurant's gravel lot and park next to his shiny silver car, I glance in his direction. He's leaning against a tall palm tree, looking relaxed and casual as he types with both thumbs on his cell phone. If I hadn't witnessed it with my own eyes, I would never guess that his pristine suit and perfect hair had recently been doused with seawater, courtesy of Crush. Maintain professional distance. I make this my silent mantra as I drop my keys into my oversized purse and emerge from my dated Honda. At the sound of my car door closing, he looks up. As soon as our eyes lock, the words freeze in my head. His gorgeous gaze is so mesmerizing, I suddenly can't remember any of my intention beyond maintain, profess. He gives me a friendly wave, and I head in his direction, hoping that he can't see the physiological changes happening in my body from him simply existing so near me. Reminding myself to play it cool, even as my heart jackhammers in my chest, I smile and stop beside him.
Shall we?
He offers as he places his palm on my lower back and gently guides me toward the restaurant's hostess stand. Even through the fabric of my casual t-shirt, heat emanates along my skin from his touch. It's clearly been far too long since I had any significant attention from an interesting man, since this simple gesture makes my entire spine tingle. As we wait for the woman to return to the greeting station after seating another couple, I indicate our clothing with my hand and say, "I feel underdressed standing next to you." He shrugs before saying,
"That's one of the things I've always loved about the Keys lifestyle. Anything goes down here."
True, I agree, oddly proud of the relaxed atmosphere in this area, even though I'm not the one who created it. The pretty hostess's bright blue eyes light up as soon as she sees Dane.
"Oh, Mr. Wilder. It's such an honor to have you here. Please follow me to the best table on the beach, if you don't mind eating outside on the patio."
That sounds perfect.
He assures her with his eyes sparkling as he gives her a dazzling smile. The young woman leans into his gaze and never spares a glance in my direction. The only indication that she even knows I'm here is the fact that she grabs 2 menus before leading us to our table. It's a miracle that the hostess doesn't fall as she cranes her neck around to grin and bat her fake eyelashes at Dane as we walk. She pulls his chair out for him, hands him a menu, and says that our server will be right over. Then she leans in to give Dane an ample view of her deep cleavage as she says in a breathy voice,
"If you need anything at all, I'll be happy to take care of you. My name is Bethany."
Thank you so much, Bethany. I'll keep that in mind.
Dane answers, flirting right back with the incredibly forward woman. She tosses my menu down on the table and purposefully sways her hips as she strolls away. I bug my eyes out at her overtly rude behavior. Granted, we aren't on a date, but Bethany doesn't know that. Dane seems oblivious to the fact that I'm gaping at him as he peruses the beverage menu, so I say, that was a bit over the top."
What do you mean?
He asks, sounding truly perplexed. "She was practically throwing herself at you, and you were flirting with her right in front of me. My tone is much more vehement than I intend, but I can't seem to control it." Dane's thick brows pinch together as he looks up at me and says,
You sound jealous.
"Not at all. I audibly scoff at the ridiculous notion, but I can tell by the knowing grin that spreads across his face that he doesn't believe me. He gives me an addictive, mind-melding stare as he says,
I have the feeling this month is going to be.
My lips part, and my breath hitches while I wait for his assessment. Finally, he finds the word he was looking for and says,
Captivating. Chapter 4. I can tell by the way Emmy's long, dark eyelashes flutter when I lean in close to her that the pretty lady is attracted to me. No surprise there. Most women can't resist the winning trifecta of an exceptionally long-limbed, passably attractive, and obscenely rich man. Often, bold women will openly throw themselves at me, hoping for a piece of the luxurious lifestyle and plentiful fortune I could easily share with them. It's nothing new, and I don't mind having them shoot their shot with me. In fact, I rather enjoy it. I flirt with all of them and take a select few on dates, but I'm careful never to let things go too far. I make sure to end things before I catch any real feelings. I'm happy to buy sparkly jewelry and other lavish gifts for the ladies I spend time with, but I don't allow myself to be truly vulnerable with them. My rule is to never share my heart with anyone who would treat me differently if I was penniless. And I've yet to find a single woman who could pass that seemingly low bar. A couple of times I was almost fooled by savvy sirens, but in both cases, evidence of their greed emerged before I fell too hard for them. Perhaps these eye-opening experiences have turned me into a closed-off jerk, but I'd rather be that than a lovesick fool. Emmy seems different, but I know better than to trust it could last. If she were to get a taste of the perks of my vast fortune, she would quickly morph into a money-hungry vulture. They all do. It never fails. I'm self-aware enough to realize that having women throw themselves at me for my money is a cushy, first-world problem. There are much worse things in life than never knowing who you can trust, if anyone. But knowing I'm lucky doesn't diminish the fact that I'm alone and likely always will be. Those twin truths are just part of being a well-known billionaire. Some of my peers have a beautiful female, or several, by their sides, but if they were to be completely honest with themselves, I have no doubt that they would admit they feel lonely, even when they are surrounded by people. It's the nature of the beast. It may not be the worst beast in the world, but it's still a burden. As if proving my point, our waitress arrives and practically sits in my lap as she takes our order. I barely even notice the overt attention anymore. I just naturally flirt back, and never read too much into it. Emmy, on the other hand, has a pinched expression, as if she could spit nails after the waitress rushes off to get our cocktails.
Shall I leave you two alone?
Her full lips purse adorably as she awaits my answer. Hoping to ease her concern, I say, no. Since we're going to be spending the next month together, I want to get to know you. She still looks perturbed, so I wave my hand in the direction the waitress darted away and say, that was just some harmless flirting. It doesn't mean anything. Emmy's eyes are alight with fiery sparks when she hisses.
It may not mean anything to you, but I can guarantee it means something to her. I bet she's in the back right now telling all of her coworkers that she has a chance with the one and only Dane Wilder.
My head rears back at the way she says my name like it's a plague. Holding my palms up, I ask, so what's wrong with that?
You're getting her hopes up, but you have no intention of following through on it.
Emmy shakes her head and rolls her eyes before muttering,
typical male.
The reason behind her open hostility clicks into place in my mind, so I say, it sounds to me like you've been hurt before and are taking that out on me.
I have been hurt,
she admits quietly. Glaring up at me, she adds,
so I know how it feels. Leading her on like that isn't doing her any favors.
Would you rather I be rude to her? I ask, perplexed by the frustrating woman.
No, of course not,
she answers in a crisp tone. I have no idea what Emmy expects from me, but I'm rescued from having to respond by the return of the waitress in question. She sets down our drinks and asks if we're ready to order our food. I haven't had time to peruse the menu, but Emmy immediately requests the coconut shrimp with extra fries, in place of a salad. That sounds good, so I request the same and briskly hand the menus back to the waitress, effectively dismissing her. The woman visibly deflates at my abruptness, but she quickly recovers before hurrying away from our table. Emmy's beautiful eyes light up with amusement as she stares at my sparkling pink drink.
Hold on. Did you order a Shirley Temple?
I always request my preferred beverage by the ingredients of Sprite and grenadine, rather than using the mocktail's common name. Most people never figure it out. I should have known nothing would slip past Emmy. Picking up the tiny plastic red sword garnishing the glass, I pop a maraschino cherry into my mouth and savor its tart sweetness. Emmy is giving me an expectant look, so after swallowing the cherry, I shrug my shoulders and say, I like how they taste. Plus, drinking them makes me feel fancy. As expected, my truthful admission makes a surprised chuckle burst out of Emmy. She covers her mouth as if she's trying to contain it, but I don't mind her ridicule one bit. In fact, I rather enjoy the deep, throaty sound of her laugh. When her chuckles finally subside, I say, laugh all you want. I am confident enough in my masculinity to drink what I truly like, even if that just happens to be a pink, non-alcoholic beverage that is normally reserved for children.
I don't know why I found it to be so funny. I guess it was just completely unexpected,
she says in a quiet tone. I reach across the table and take her delicate hand within mine to let her know I'm not upset with her. The simple touch sends a tingling shiver up my arm. Her eyes lock with mine. Surprise is visible in her gaze. I'm not sure if she's giving me that wide-eyed look because the new owner of her place of employment is holding her hand, or if she feels the same jolt of electricity as I do from our connection. It crosses my mind that perhaps I should let go of her in case it's the former, but I really don't want to. I'm searching her gaze for answers when she baffles me further by saying,
You're not at all how I expected you to be, Mr. Wilder. Chapter 5. This blasted man is turning my brain to mush. I am determined to be distant and reserved with him, yet I inexplicably allow him to hold my hand. Then, I make a lame, absurd attempt to reinsert some professionalism into our relationship by calling him Mr. Wilder. His face twists with confusion as soon as the overly formal name falls from my lips, then he snatches his hand away from mine as if I have burned him. I instantly miss his warm touch. The simple connection of our hands on the table felt so good and so right. It would be ridiculously easy to fall for the charming, confident man. But that would be a non-stop train straight to heartbreak. He will speed out of the Keys once this month is over, and likely never look back. I would be smart to remember that, but I can already tell that he's going to make that mission incredibly challenging. We are saved from awkward silence by the arrival of our food. The waitress isn't nearly as flirtatious with Dane this time, making it obvious that she took the hint from his earlier abruptness with her. I feel bad for her, but I also didn't enjoy watching the two of them make googly eyes at each other. It doesn't make a lick of sense, since I have absolutely no claim on Dane, but it felt disrespectful for him to flirt with other women while having dinner with me. Obviously, I need to work on recognizing the boundary lines of our relationship. I'm a worker bee, and bet to him. I'll never be anything more in his eyes. The fact that he curbed his flirtation when he realized it bothered me is really sweet. Most men with his wealth, power, and stature would have immediately pointed out that I have no right to place any type of restrictions on his behavior. It's shocking that he reacted so well to it, since I was clearly out of line. I try to think of a way to apologize for my blunder without making things more uncomfortable, but come up dry. Instead, we both tuck into a crunchy fresh shrimp and make deep sounds of appreciation in our throats over the sweet and savory flavors. After Dane swallows his first bite, he says,
Excellent choice. I haven't had coconut shrimp in ages. I forgot how delicious they are.
I beam, strangely proud of the compliment. The man can afford to eat the rarest, most expensive foods in the world, so it feels phenomenal for him to approve of my selection. We eat a few more bites in silence before Dane says in an all-business tone,
I've been waiting for the bomb to drop, so how about if you just tell me now?
I'm midway through chomping on a large fry, but I'm beyond curious what he means, so I hold my hand up to cover my mouth and ask around the partially chewed food, "Tell you what." If he is disgusted by my lack of table manners, he gives no indication of it. Without missing a beat, he answers,
What do you want in return for agreeing to let me live with you for a month?
I bug my eyes out in his direction as I gulp down the fry. My voice comes out overly squeaky when I ask, "You're going to be living with me?"
Of course.
He answers, as if it should have been obvious. Clarifying, he adds,
Going home every evening after work to my canal front mansion with a full staff to take care of my every whim wouldn't exactly be abiding by the rules of the bet.
Staring down at the table, I blink several times as I mull over this new information. When I agreed to help him, I hadn't anticipated having to share my minuscule apartment with him. Shaking my head, I ask, "Why can't you just rent a small place for the month?"
I'm sure any rental is going to require the first and last month's rent, plus a security deposit, to move in. Will I be able to afford a place of my own on my new salary?
He's got me there. I'd used all of my savings from many years' worth of birthday and Christmas presents, plus every penny I could scrape together from part-time after-school jobs to move down here and rent a place. "No, but I'm sure your friend will bend the rules for that," I try. At Dane's intense stare, I add, "I just have a small studio apartment. It really isn't big enough for two people to live comfortably."
I promise I won't be in your way.
He assures me, even though I know it isn't possible for the two of us to stay in my tiny place without being practically on top of each other. "It's not a good idea," I tell him, shaking my head. Understanding dawns in his expression just before he says,
If you're worried about me taking advantage of the situation, don't. You have my word that I will sleep on your sofa, and I will not touch you while we're staying together at your place.
It doesn't make a bit of sense that his solemn promise makes my shoulders deflate a little, or that his final words bring a surge of hope that he might touch me after this is all over. He's staring intently at me, so I respond, "I believe you." The relief is undeniable in his features. He resumes eating as if this is settled, so I add, "As soon as you see my place and the short love seat where you'd be sleeping, you're going to change your mind about this."
Not a chance.
He says firmly, before tossing back the rest of his Shirley Temple. As if she is hovering just out of sight and watching our table, our waitress slides a fresh drink in front of Dane and removes the empty glass. He thanks her without making eye contact. Leaning toward me, he says,
I'm going to give you some free business advice.
I freeze and listen intently. If a successful business mogul is going to give me a money tip, I'm sure as heck going to pay attention.
Before you make a deal with someone, you should always ask for what you want.
He pauses, as if waiting for me to make an outrageous demand. I'm sure he has people asking him for favors and gifts all day, every day, and I don't want to add to that burden. Asking him for money in exchange for allowing him to live a month in my life would feel wrong, so I merely shrug my shoulders at him. His gorgeous eyes bore into me. I can't tell if he thinks I'm foolish, or if he's impressed that I didn't make a ridiculous request of him. Either way, his intense gaze makes me shift in my seat. Eventually, he says,
Well, since you won't stand up for yourself, how about if I tell you my idea for how to compensate you for sharing your home, time, and expertise with me?
It's all I can do to keep from rolling my eyes at the realization that my area of expertise is how to survive on a shoestring budget. When I don't answer, Dane continues,
I thought since I'll be living on your salary for the month, that you could have mine for the same time frame.
I gaze at him, trying to decide if my ears are playing a marvelous trick on me. I have no idea how much the billionaire earns in a month, but it's sure to be a life-changing amount of money for me. He types into his phone's calculator app, then turns the screen around to show me the number.
Will that be sufficient compensation?
I gaze awestruck at all of the zeros after the first number. It's more money than I would have dared to dream. My voice seems to have left the building, so my question comes out as a scratchy whisper. You make that much every month?
Actually, that's the weekly amount, so you'll receive quadruple that for the month.
He explains as he multiplies it out, and then shows me the new, even larger number. Unwanted tears are pooling in my lower lids as I bob my head up and down. This much money will give me the kind of security I've never had, or even truly imagined having. With this lump sum in the bank, if my car breaks down or I have some unexpected medical bills, no problem. If my friends are going out to eat, I can go along without having to scrimp on groceries for 2 weeks afterward. If I want a new outfit, I'll be able to buy it, without waiting for it to go to the clearance rack, and hoping it's still available in my size. If I'm smart with this money, and don't waste it on extravagant purchases, it will create a nest egg that should last the rest of my life. With this, I'll be able to help my children have a solid start, assuming I'm ever blessed with any little ones. Overwhelmed, I do the only thing that makes any sense in this moment. I lean over and give Dane a huge hug.
Chapter 6. Delight and surprise take over my senses when Emmy wraps me in her warm embrace. I hadn't been expecting such a strong reaction from her, and every cell in my body lights up from her touch. Granted, money is the reason for her hug, but I try hard not to think about that while her arms are wrapped around my neck. She smells like vanilla and the toasted coconut from our shrimp. The tantalizing combination makes me hungry, but not for food. I envision myself redacted, and it's all I can do to keep from turning my face to the side to claim her lips with mine. It was dumb of me to promise not to touch her during our time here together. It's obviously going to be extremely challenging to keep that vow, but one thing I never do is break my word. After she pulls back and settles in her chair, I say, one more piece of business advice. Never accept the first offer. She twirls her wine glass and says,
This is so generous of you, Dane. I wouldn't feel right to try to negotiate for even more.
The fact that she feels that way makes me wish I'd offered her more money. Her viewpoint is absolutely refreshing, since almost everyone else I know would have immediately tried to wiggle the amount up. As I eat a coconut-coated shrimp and savor the tropical scent that I'll now forever associate with Emmy, I make the decision to include a hefty bonus in her payout if this month goes as well as I anticipate it will. Hoping to get to know her better, I ask, what is the first thing you're going to buy with the money? She doesn't even have to think about her response.
There's a new brand of mascara that some of my friends have been raving about, so I'd like to give it a try.
I nod, waiting for her to continue. When she doesn't, I prod her, what else?
I think I'll get a tube for my work bestie, Margot too, because her birthday is coming up.
She stops again, so I try to get her to think bigger by suggesting, what about a new car? Shaking her head back and forth, she says,
No, my car runs fine.
After pondering it for a moment, she adds,
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, so I don't want to just blow through the cash and end up right back where I started. I want to make the money last as long as possible.
Smart, I weigh in, truly impressed by her restraint. Most people would have already spent the entire amount in their minds with lavish upgrades and unnecessary purchases. Truly curious about the unique woman, I say, tell me about yourself, Emmy Scott.
This suddenly feels like a job interview.
She lets out a quick high-pitched laugh. Not at all, I assure her before adding, I just want to get to know the real you.
There isn't much to tell,
Emmy says, staring down at her half-empty plate.
I grew up in Georgia with my parents and brother. He was always their golden child who could do no wrong, while I was the afterthought. They never really expected much from me. I guess I delivered on that since I'm Miss Average in every way.
This can't possibly be the way the beautiful, unique woman sees herself. There's nothing average about you, Emmy. You're absolutely magnificent. She's staring down at her plate, but her cheeks visibly pinken.
It's becoming obvious that your reputation for being a charmer is well deserved.
Unable to stop myself, I take her hand once more. Inserting extra vehemence in my tone, I say, I'm not just flirting with you. I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. You're truly one of a kind. The word,
Thanks.
falls from her lips, but there is no enthusiasm in her tone. It's obvious that she doesn't believe I'm being sincere. Since I know that I shouldn't keep holding her hand, I reluctantly let it go. I'm trying to formulate the perfect words to make her see how special she is when she says,
Tell me something that no one knows about you, other than the Shirley Temple thing.
with anyone else, I would assume she was trying to get the inside scoop to sell to a news outlet, but I innately sense that I can trust Emmy. After thinking it over for a moment, I decide to go all in and be vulnerable with her. In a stage whisper that's just quiet enough to not be overheard by any nearby tables, I reveal, I read my horoscope every single morning. Emmy holds her light pink linen napkin over her mouth as she giggles. The sound of her laughter is addictive, even if it is at my expense. When her chuckles subside, I say, I'm glad you find my revelation to be so amusing.
It's just so.
She waves her hand in the air as she searches for the right word. Finally, she lands on
Unexpected.
I nod, understanding exactly what she means. Most people think they know precisely what kind of man I am, even if we've never met. Her expression turns serious before she says,
It must be tough to carry the burden of strangers having so many preconceived notions about you.
My breath hitches at her succinct analysis. She has pinpointed one of my biggest struggles. Not wanting to sound like a whiny jerk, I brighten and say, Don't feel too bad for me. I actually live a very blessed life.
I can see that, but it doesn't mean you don't have any problems.
Her soft-spoken kind words are validating. So many people assume that having plenty of money erases all of one's problems, and that simply isn't the case. Sure, extreme wealth eases many worries, but it also highlights others. Hoping the sincerity comes through in my tone, I say, Thank you for saying that. It means more than you can imagine that you don't just assume my life is perfect because I can buy pretty much anything I want.
Money doesn't buy happiness, right?
She gives me a wide smile that I can't help returning as I quip, but it sure is fun to try. Emmy shakes her head, obviously not falling for my false levity. Smoothly shifting the subject back to my earlier revelation, she asks,
So, what is your zodiac sign?
I'm a Libra, I tell her. Her neutral expression reveals nothing, so I add, Most people assume that the scales symbol means that Libras are indecisive when given two options, but for me, it's more about carefully weighing the benefits and consequences of a decision before moving forward with the most advantageous option.
That in-depth analysis probably gives you an advantage in business deals.
She says. Exactly, I agree, giving her my boardroom shark smile. Her spine stiffens.
I'm glad I'll never have to bid against you for anything.
I do like to win, I admit before adding, but most people do. She nods her head once before saying,
I've never put much stock into horoscopes because my zodiac sign is Cancer. Just saying the name gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It is unfortunate that your sign shares a name with the disease, but I bet you'd be surprised how accurate the typical characteristics and traits are, I tell her, before Googling information about her zodiac sign on my phone. As soon as the screen populates, I say, Yep, just as I suspected. Cancers are known for being nurturing, compassionate, loving, and having a great sense of humor. Granted, I don't know you that well yet, but those all seem like accurate descriptors of you. Emmy's brows scrunch together before she says,
They choose generic traits that everyone wants to believe they portray.
I'm surprised she's so averse to opening her mind to astrology. Hoping to convince her, I say, I can't imagine a more nurturing, compassionate, or loving encounter than I witnessed between you and those dolphins earlier. She tilts her head to the side as she ponders that, so I add, and when one of them decided to soak me with salt water, your strong sense of humor shined brightly as you struggled not to openly laugh at me. You noticed me trying not to giggle at Crush's antics? She asks before giving me a beautiful, shy smile. I did, I tell her, returning her grin.
Maybe horoscopes aren't complete hogwash.
She weighs in. Her admission feels like a victory, until I scroll further down the website's page. My expression must fall because Emmy immediately picks up on the shift and asks,
"What's wrong?"
"Nothing," I try, but she isn't falling for it. At her level, no-nonsense look, I admit, Libras and Cancers are two of the least compatible signs. She lifts her palms as she says,
"Well, that's going to make this month even more interesting." Chapter 7. Our gooey chocolate dessert is delivered, and we chat amiably. Somehow, it feels completely natural to be sharing a decadent treat with this surprisingly chill billionaire, even though it's the most surreal experience of my entire life. Although our conversation has moved on, my mind keeps wandering back to our horoscope discussion. I've never placed any merit in the generic predictions, so it makes absolutely no sense that the revelation of our zodiac signs being incompatible sucker punched me in the gut. The compatibility score was likely made up by some woo-woo fake card reader who believes in crystals and burning sage for energy displacement. There is no scientific proof behind any of this. It is complete nonsense. Besides, even if by some miracle it is accurate, it doesn't matter. Dane and I don't need to be compatible. We just need to spend 30 days together so he can win his bet, and I can collect my ginormous paycheck. We both have a significant incentive to make this work, even if we don't exactly get along. After our month is up, we never have to see each other again, and I'm sure we won't. It's not like we run in the same social circles. I don't see how much of a tip Dane writes in on the receipt, but based on our waitress's thrilled reaction, it must be an incredibly generous amount. He follows me as we drive to my apartment. The alone time allows my nervousness to escalate. It's one thing to have dinner in a public restaurant with the wealthy and powerful man, but it's an entirely different level of intimacy to invite him into my personal space. I lead him up the stairs to my small section of the stilt house. After turning my key in the lock, I pause and look up at him to say, "It might be a bit messy."
"You weren't expecting company,"
he responds, implying that he won't judge my lack of housekeeping skills. As we walk over the threshold, I flip on the ceiling fan light. I look around and try to picture the tiny apartment through his eyes as he first encounters the space that he'll be stuck living in for the next month. The untidy, open-concept room is in even worse shape than I remembered. Clothing is strewn on the floor in front of the floor-length mirror, where I tried to decide what to wear the last time our group of friends went out for dinner. Dirty dishes are stacked in the galley kitchen sink. My bed is unmade and rumpled. Junk mail and bills are piled up on the coffee table and love seat. The trash can is overflowing. A laundry basket with clean clothes that I have yet to put away is sitting on the two-person kitchen table by the window. The bathroom is dark, but I know without being able to see inside that the sink's countertop is cluttered with makeup and toiletries. There is also a smelly pile of damp towels on the floor that I've been meaning to take to the laundromat. Dane does his best to cover his shock over how disorderly my small place is, but I can tell that he is secretly appalled. Suddenly, I'm embarrassed by the obvious lack of cleaning. Hoping to make light of it, I say, "I've always been kind of a slob." I'm relieved that he doesn't immediately respond that he can see that. Instead, he gives me a half smile before setting his duffel bag down and saying,
"How about if we tidy up a bit, just so there is more room for two people to live here?"
If someone had told me this morning that I would end this day with Dane Wilder standing at my kitchen sink wearing yellow rubber gloves and scrubbing my dishes, I would have never believed it could be within the realm of possibility. Yet, that is precisely the sight before me. On my way to the recycling bin with a tall pile of useless mail, I pause for a long moment and simply stare at the handsome man's backside. The shorts he changed into before we started our cleaning spree hug his tight buns in the most delectable way. It would be so easy to drop these papers, walk up close behind him and wrap my arms around him. Starting a sizzling affair with Dane would certainly make this month more interesting and fun. I bite my lip and watch his narrow hips sway as he scrubs stubborn dried egg off a pan that I hadn't bothered to pre-soak. "Bad idea," I remind myself for what seems like the thousandth time. Needing some distance, I whirl around and head outside to get rid of these papers. Rather than heading straight back inside, where Dane's larger-than-life presence seems to suck all of the available oxygen from the cramped room, I sit down at the worn picnic table. Several people rent apartments in this oversized house, but I rarely see anyone else taking advantage of the outdoor area. The stars are twinkling in the night sky, so I tip my head back and breathe in deeply, savoring the fresh air. I won't be able to sit out here long because the mosquitoes will attack, but it's nice to be able to relax outside for a bit without the humidity draping me in a sweaty blanket.
Aha! Caught you.
Dane's voice makes me jump as if I'm guilty of more than simply taking a quick break. I can only handle a limited amount of cleaning at one time, since it's my least favorite thing to do in the entire world, I admit.
What about going to the dentist for a filling?
He asks. I don't even have to think about it. Still better than cleaning my apartment. He gives an exaggerated shiver of disgust before saying,
I'd rather scour 1,000 filthy gas station toilets than have the sound of that drill squealing in my ear.
Wow, you must really hate the dentist. I bug my eyes out at the mere idea of having to scrub that many toilets.
The dentist chair was one of my biggest fears as a kid, but now I have them gas me up so I don't have a care in the world while I'm there.
Nitrous oxide is good stuff, I agree, remembering how loopy my brother was when I drove him home from his appointment to have his wisdom teeth removed. Dane nods, then his expression brightens with an idea.
Perhaps you can use some of your new windfall to hire a housekeeper to come in and clean your apartment every other week or so.
My attempt to keep a straight face fails miserably when I say, oh, I was hoping that the one and only Dane Wilder was going to be my new butler.
I'm happy to help keep things clean at your place this month, but after that, you'll be on your own.
He informs me. It isn't logical that my shoulders deflate at his no-nonsense response. Of course, a billionaire isn't going to show up and wash my dishes on a regular basis. I'd been joking when I made the ludicrous statement. Yet, it's somehow disappointing to hear him confirm the short-term nature of our relationship so matter-of-factly. Apparently misunderstanding the reason for my sudden melancholy, Dane suggests,
How about if we stop cleaning for the night? I think we have enough of a path cleared for us to get by for a while.
His gaze is warm and steady on me as he waits for my answer, but I'm unable to meet it. Sorry my place was so gross?
It wasn't gross. I'd call it.
He pauses, obviously searching for the least offensive wording. Finally, he lands on,
Lived in.
Very lived in, I agree, already perking up. We head back upstairs, and he offers to let me use the restroom first to get ready for bed. After I change into comfier shorts and a camisole, I brush my teeth and splash cool water on my overheated face and arms. While Dane is in the bathroom, I pace back and forth, physically unable to remain still. He emerges looking gorgeous and freshly scrubbed from a quick shower. I wring my hands and hover as he plops down on the love seat. When he stretches out and covers himself with the light quilt I laid out, it's obvious by his calves and feet hanging off the end that this isn't going to work. You're way too tall to sleep there, I say aloud, even though I'm stating the obvious.
I'll be fine.
He assures me. I shake my head, unable to believe that he isn't being more of a diva. It would be much easier to witness his discomfort if he made ridiculous demands. I'm way shorter than you are, plus I sleep all curled up in a ball. I'll sleep here and you can take my bed.
My mama raised me to be a gentleman. I'd rather sleep on the cold hard ground than steal a lady's soft bed.
Determination and good manners are evident in both his words and tone. Guilt weighs down my shoulders, but I'm not sure what else to say or do to convince him. After I turn off the lights and climb into my cushy bed, I stare at the ceiling, unable to doze off. Dane shifts and adjusts several times, trying to find a comfortable position, but he never utters a single complaint. Realizing that I'll never get any sleep this way, I huff out a frustrated breath and say, "Oh, for Pete's sake, come sleep in the bed with me. I'll place a pillow between us, as a barrier. Quicker than I would have imagined could be possible, Dane is standing at the far side of my bed. Even in the darkened room, I can see his eyes sparkling when he says,
"I thought you'd never ask." Chapter 8. Absolute bloody torture. Trying to sleep right next to the gorgeous, desirable woman is beyond frustrating, especially after she starts snoring. I'm not sure what I was thinking when I signed up for this ridiculous bet, or when I agreed not to touch Emmy for the entire month, but I clearly wasn't in my right mind. It's all I can do to restrain myself from reaching out to her, yet the blasted woman obviously has no problem being in such close proximity to me. There's no reason for me to have such a strong attraction to her. It's not like she's perfect. Her apartment was an absolute pigsty before our cleaning frenzy. With me being a bit of a neatnik, her slovenly ways would quickly drive me crazy. And the snoring. It sounds like a gang of motorcycle riders driving back and forth as she breathes in and out. I'm not sure how it's possible for such an adorable woman to make that much noise. Sleep must eventually find me because I awaken to beams of sunlight stretching across the apartment's tile floor, and the smell of fresh coffee coming from her gurgling pot. Since the shower is running, I reach for my phone to do a quick check-in with Lisa. Even though I am technically off work, I don't want to miss anything important. Lisa assures me that everything is under control, and gently reminds me that she'll call with anything urgent. I take the hint not to worry, and quickly sign off the call, confident that the competent woman can handle whatever is thrown her way. Although I pay my irreplaceable assistant handsomely, it isn't enough. As soon as I get back in the office, I'm going to make arrangements to give her a 25% raise. She deserves it, and I certainly don't want to risk having any of my competition trying to poach her away from me. I make the bed, tidy up a bit more, and am skimming our horoscopes on my phone when Emmy emerges from the bathroom with wet hair. Apparently, the astute woman already knows me better than should be possible, because she levels a knowing look at me and asks,
"How does your horoscope look for today?"
"It's going to be a fantastic day," I answer confidently. Opting to be transparent, I add, for both of us. This last part causes her to pause on her trek to the coffee pot. Giving me a surprised and, dare I say, delighted look, she asks,
"You looked up my horoscope too?"
"Of course, if I'm going to be spending the next 30 days with you, I need to know what to expect." She nods before saying,
"Well then, you'd better get a move on. It's hard for things to go too well when you show up late for your first day of work."
"Understood," I answer, grabbing my duffel and striding toward the bathroom. It doesn't take me long to get ready. When I walk out to the kitchen, Emmy has 2 cups of coffee with lids sitting on the counter. "Is one of these for me?"
"Yep. Do you need sugar or cream?"
"Nope, black is fine." I blow into the lid's hole and take a tentative sip. The coffee is strong and bitter, but I don't allow myself to wince. Emmy is studying my face with a bemused smile lighting up hers.
"I like my coffee strong enough to lift weights. Can you handle it, cupcake?"
From anyone else, I might take offense, but with Emmy, I know she's just being playful and trying to rile me up. "Oh, I can handle bold beverages. I drink Shirley Temples every night, remember?" As expected, the ridiculous statement makes her laugh. Eventually, she asks,
"How could I forget?"
We take our coffees with us. As she locks up the apartment, Emmy says,
"Actually, that reminds me. We probably need to stop by the grocery on our way home tonight to pick up Sprite, grenadine, cherries, and any inexpensive foods you like. On your new budget, eating out at restaurants is a rare treat, and you'll want to just order ice water to avoid having too big of a bill."
Her words make me stop mid-step. I wasn't always as wealthy as I am now, but my family would probably be considered upper, middle class. I've never once considered the extra expense of ordering a specialty beverage at a restaurant. The sudden realization that a few bucks can be a total budget breaker makes me realize how out of touch I am. An icky feeling settles in the pit of my stomach, since I'd always considered myself to be empathetic to the financial struggles so many people face. Apparently, I have absolutely no clue what it's really like to watch every single penny. And Emmy is much better off than many. Emmy mistakes my self-reflection for fear. Grabbing my arm and pulling me forward, she says,
"It won't be that bad. I'll help you figure out how to budget. Besides, it's only a month. You can handle any hardship for a month."
As if living with you will be a hardship. I give her my signature grin that almost never fails with the ladies. She shakes her head and walks to the driver's side of her car. In a prim tone, she tells me,
"Your flirting, which seems to make other women swoon, isn't going to work on me."
I have no doubt about that, I mutter under my breath. When she asks me what I said, I change the subject by offering, "I can drive us to work in my car."
Most people on your new salary can't afford Porsches.
I can practically hear the eye roll in her tone. "Oh, right," I say as I climb into the passenger seat of her car. When she turns the key in the ignition, the car makes an alarming squealing sound. At my distressed look, Emmy says,
"Don't worry. She dislikes mornings about as much as I do, but she'll be fine once she gets going."
As Emmy drives us in her noisy hunk of junk car, I can't help but imagine her being alone and broken down on the side of the only major road that traverses the length of the Keys. The frightening visualization makes me long to step in and help, but I'm confident that she won't allow me to buy her a more reliable car. Apparently, money doesn't solve every problem. Somehow, her rattletrap car manages to deliver us to work on time. She shows me how to clock in, and laughs at the realization that I've never used a time card before. When she introduces me to her coworkers, my employees, they mostly stare at the ground and shuffle their feet as if I'm here to fire them all. Emmy's pretty friend, Margot, is the one exception. She bats her long eyelashes in my direction. The black fringe frames her eyes beautifully, so she'll likely be even more of a knockout once Emmy buys her the trendy mascara the two of them have been coveting. Margot uses a breathy tone to flirt with me, but I am immune to such obvious come-ons. I wink at her and move on, thinking nothing of it. At the morning meeting, I get the distinct impression that the prevailing silence is due to my presence, so I say, "Look, this isn't an episode of Undercover Boss. It's no secret that I own this place, but for this month I'm just an extra set of hands. Please treat me like any other new employee." Several heads bob up and down, but the tension is nearly as thick as the oppressive humidity, making it obvious that my presence is causing uneasiness. Emmy helps cut some of the awkwardness by saying,
"Well, in that case, the newbie always gets stuck with the stinky, filthy jobs no one else wants to do. That means you're going to spend the day scrubbing sea turtles. Follow me, and I'll help you get started."
The group practically lets out a collective sigh of relief when the two of us walk away. It's obviously going to take some serious effort to get the other workers to open up and relax around me. The turtle pool is a green, murky section of the lagoon that has a strong, nose-hair curling odor that will likely linger in my nostrils long after we leave here for the day. Although I'm attempting to keep my facial expression neutral, it's obvious from Emmy's amused half-smile that I'm failing miserably with that mission. Tilting her head to the side, she offers,
"If you can't handle this, we can find something else to do today. There is never a shortage of chores to be done around here."
"Nope, I'm all good." I try to sound confident since I refuse to appear soft by wimping out on the first job I've been assigned. When Emmy struggles to guide an enormous sea turtle to the cleaning station we've set up, I rush to help her. Leaning my upper half away from the huge animal, I ask, "Is he going to bite us?" He doesn't seem very happy.
"Her name is Greta, and she's not a big fan of bath day. I thought we'd start with her to get the worst over with first. Several of the other turtles actually enjoy their scrub downs, but Greta would prefer to live in filth."
Deciding to tease Emmy a bit, I say, "Speaking of living in filth, you don't like cleaning your apartment, but you're happy to spend your time scrubbing turtles?"
"Yep, the turtles appreciate it far more than my apartment does,"
she says, not sounding at all offended that I dissed her housekeeping skills. As we wash the turtle, I ask, why do we bother doing this? Turtles in the wild don't get bathed by humans. Emmy explains.
In the wild, turtles can visit cleaning stations at coral reefs where shrimp and small fish eat the parasites and algae that grow on their shells.
So, it's kind of like going to the car wash. I ask.
Yeah, I guess so.
Emmy grins at the idea. Greta flaps one of her flippers in a feeble attempt to get away.
It's okay. We're almost done.
Emmy soothes her. Her calm voice does the trick because Greta visibly relaxes. Scrubbing as she talks, Emmy says,
We can't let Greta loose, because she's unable to swim in open water with her bum flipper.
Emmy gently lifts the noticeably smaller appendage. Answering my unasked question, she says,
It got caught inside a plastic bottle holder and couldn't grow properly.
Darn, I mutter under my breath, disgusted by humankind. Nodding sadly, Emmy says,
Yep, most of our sea turtles are here thanks to humans. Check out the gash on Bilbo's shell.
I turn my gaze in the direction she's pointing, then ask, Boat propeller?
Yep.
She answers. We finish scrubbing Greta and release her. The turtle quickly swims away, as if she has made a grand escape.
1 down, 5 more to go.
Emmy says in a cheerful tone. As backbreaking and odoriferous as the work is, I don't mind doing it since Emmy is here with me. I would willingly do just about any chore with the vivacious woman by my side. Swiping her wet hands down the front of her sporty new shorty wetsuit, she asks,
You all good here? I need to head over to the Dolphin Lagoon.
I try but likely fail to keep the disappointment from showing on my face as I say, Okay, sure. I'll be fine on my own here.
I'd wash Speedy next,
she suggests, pointing to a smaller turtle near the dock. Leaning in, she adds,
He likes being scrubbed so much, he wiggles his rear end back and forth in a little happy dance.
Got it. I answer, unable to keep from watching Emmy's curvy rear end wiggle as she walks away.
Chapter 9. Dane and I have survived a week working together and sleeping beside each other in the same bed, with only a pillow barrier between us to keep me from reaching out to him in the night. He has proven himself to be an incredibly hard worker, and I'm impressed that he doesn't mind doing the dirty grunt work around the sanctuary. In fact, I was sure that he'd break before now and go back to his cushy lifestyle, but he's showing no signs of giving up. Tonight, we are going out for a much-needed evening of fun and relaxation with my small group of friends. The night dive scheduled for this evening was canceled due to high winds and rough seas, so one of my besties, Marina, will be able to join us. She and I have been texting about Dane all week, and she's dying to meet him, claiming that she wants to live vicariously through me since she's a self-proclaimed old married woman. The gang is meeting at the colorful Mexican restaurant we all love. I suggested the cantina in the hopes that giant frozen margaritas would help everyone loosen up around Dane. His presence seems to make people nervous, even though he's not actually in the least bit condescending. My coworkers are just now starting to relax enough to joke around with him. Hopefully, tequila will speed that process with my friends. When we join them at the large table, my rowdy friends silence. Hoping to ease some of the tension, I quip, You guys act like you've never dined with a billionaire before. After a couple of nervous chuckles, the group quiets again. Dane says,
Normally, I would tell everyone to order whatever they want because I'd pick up the tab, but I'm on a strict budget this month, so I guess I can't buy your friendship.
I smile at the ridiculous, self-deprecating comment. As charming, funny, and caring as Dane is, there is no way he would ever have to buy friends. Once people get over their initial wariness of his vast wealth and power, they want to spend time with him for his amazing, magnetic personality. Okay, I am people. I want to spend time with him. The limited time I have left in his life isn't going to be nearly enough. The realization that my relationship with Dane has an hourglass timer that is running out way too quickly makes a chilly shiver race down my spine. When the waitress leans in close to take Dane's drink order, he automatically responds,
I'll have Sprite with grenadine and I'll have ice water.
I grin, thrilled that he's showing so much self-control. Whispering near his ear, I say, "You can have a Shirley Temple with extra cherries when we get home."
Really?
The way his face lights up as I nod to confirm is beyond adorable.
What are you two whispering about over there?
Marina asks, narrowing her eyes in our direction. I was just making promises about what's going to happen after we get back to my apartment tonight, I hint. As expected, the suggestive statement causes my friends to raise their eyebrows and make childish ooh sounds as if we're all in 5th grade. When silence follows, Marina's husband Frank says,
"It's time for us to finish our game of redacted marry kill."
I glare at the annoying man, who for some unfathomable reason cheats on lovely inside and out Marina. I've tried several times to gently bring up his numerous indiscretions, but she won't even discuss it. Either she already knows about it, or she doesn't want to know. But Dane is here now, so it isn't the same people we had last time. I try, not wanting to finish the silly game in front of the business mogul.
You just don't want to take your turn.
Marina's ditzy friend, Trixie, suggests. In a flirty tone, she looks at Dane and says,
"You can play with us."
Marina says,
Okay, I was the last one to take a turn, so I pick Frank to go next.
All eyes turn to her sleazy husband. He rubs his scruffy chin as he pretends to think it over. Uneasiness swirls in my belly, since this obviously isn't going to work out well. Evidently having made his choices, Frank says,
"I think I'll redacted Emmy marry Marina, obviously.
He pauses to give his wife a wide shark-like grin.
And I'll kill the new guy."
Dane's spine stiffens as soon as Frank utters my name. The anger is practically vibrating off him in visible waves, as he clenches his teeth and openly glares at the other man. Frank lifts his palms as he says,
"Sorry man, but I don't know you."
I'm sure Frank is well aware of Dane's name. He's just going out of his way to be a butthead. Dane is still glaring at him when Frank leers at me and says,
"Your turn, beautiful."
I hate that the jerk flirts with me at all, let alone in front of Marina. I've never led him on in any way. In fact, I verge on being openly rude to him, but he doesn't take the hint. Since Dane is practically bristling, I take my turn in the hopes of distracting him from being angry with Frank. I don't even have to think about my choices. I'll redacted Dane, marry Marina and kill Frank. If I thought Dane's spine was erect before, it's nothing compared to how it stiffens when I say his name. Marina's face brightens with delight.
You'd marry me?
Absolutely. I'm not getting tied down with any of these bozos. I think you and I would be very happy together, I tell her.
I bet we would.
She agrees, smiling. Deciding not to be too sappy, I point at her lap and say, "But I'm not going down there." She laughs before agreeing.
Ditto.
Frank's angry voice cuts through our merriment.
"Who do you choose to go next?"
"Trixie," I answer, since the woman is practically begging me with her eyes. In a breathy tone, she says,
I'll redacted Dane marry Dane and kill Frank.
You can't pick the same person for two of them.
Marina reminds her, likely trying to draw attention away from the fact that more than one person would choose her husband if someone in the group had to be murdered.
Okay.
Trixie says, sounding disappointed. After thinking it over for a long moment, she says,
Well, I definitely want to marry Dane, so I guess I'll redacted Jared.
She thumbs the friendly guy, who always manages to sit right next to her. Jared brightens visibly and puffs his chest up at this news, confirming my suspicion that he has a crush on the blonde bombshell. We all know she wants to marry Dane for his money, but none of us comment on it. She leans forward, giving us the perfect view down her deep cleavage as she says in a sultry tone,
I choose Dane to go next.
Trixie is so obviously enamored with Dane, if he chooses her for one of the first two options, she's liable to redacted right here at the table. Dane says,
Well, this is tough since I just met most of you.
Come on. Please.
Trixie bats her eyelashes. Proving that it isn't actually a tough decision at all for him, he instantly says,
Okay, here goes. I'll redacted Marina, marry Emmy and kill Frank.
Trixie's hopeful expression falls. Frank slams his fist on the table and openly glares at Dane.
It's just a game, right?
Dane asks him, practically daring the other man to object. Frank's nostrils flare as Morena leans over to whisper something in his ear. Her words must not do the trick to soothe him, because he shoves his chair back and stalks out of the restaurant. Covering for him, like she always does, Morena says,
He just needs some fresh air.
Once Frank is gone, the table is much more relaxed. The man's rude, hostile attitude drains everyone's energy, so when he leaves, it's like a weight has been lifted from our shoulders. We only put up with him in the group, because we all love Morena. After we eat, Trixie and Morena drag me out to the restaurant's small dance floor. I ask Dane to join us, but he replies that he doesn't dance. No one else is dancing, but the other two ladies have both been enjoying tonight's special, mango margaritas. The tequila is clearly making them relaxed and carefree. As we sway to the upbeat music, Trixie leans in to say,
Dane is such a catch. You are so lucky.
Oh, it's not like that. He's just here for a bet, and nothing more, I say.
Peef.
The unglamorous sound of disbelief makes a tiny bit of spittle fly from Morena's lips. Really? I say, unsure why they would think a man like Dane would ever be truly interested in someone like me. As if answering my unasked question, Morena says,
We've seen the way that man looks at you. He's falling for you.
It's my turn to make the sound of disbelief. Not a chance. I startle when a lanky man sidles right up and begins grinding behind me. Dane is still at the table, so I know it isn't him, not that he would do anything so crass anyway. Turning around, I hold up my palm to let the obviously drunk man know that I'm not interested. He makes his way over to Trixie and sways behind her. The woman smiles and lets him wrap his arm around her, so Morena and I move away to give them some room. The two of us laugh and dance together. She twirls me in a circle and lets me go. I'm appalled to bump into the man I thought was with Trixie. He has left Trixie dancing alone in the corner and made his way back to me. His hand wraps around my wrist, so I try unsuccessfully to yank it away from him. Quicker than should be humanly possible, Dane is there. His voice comes out in a gruff growl when he says,
The lady doesn't want to dance with you.
Buzz off.
The jerk says, as the fingers of his other hand dig into my waist, and he tries to shuffle me around and away from Dane.
I'm cutting in.
Dane says in a no-nonsense tone as he shoves the wiry man aside, effectively claiming me as his. Proving that he's had too much to drink, the man falls to the ground. I'm concerned there's going to be an all-out brawl when he stands and says,
What the heck, dude?
Instead, Dane gives him a menacing glare, and the smaller man quickly scurries away. Settling into Dane's warm embrace as we sway together, I say, I thought you didn't dance.
Apparently, I'll do anything for you.
He answers. His gorgeous gaze bores down on me as he says,
So you choose me to redact it, huh?
There were limited options at the table, I remind him, not wanting him to get too full of himself. And you'd redacted Morena? I ask, trying to hide my hurt feelings over his choice even though he had to pick someone.
I just said that to rile up that jerk, Frank.
He answers. Mission accomplished, I chuckle, oddly relieved to hear that he doesn't lust for my gorgeous married friend. When the song ends, Dane releases me, and I immediately miss being in his arms. We walk back to the table and discover that everyone is divvying up the check and preparing to leave. After we pay our portions, Dane places his large hand on my lower back and leads me toward the door. Morena and Trixie call out to me, so I turn back. Dane offers to start my car and get the air conditioner going, so I hand him the keys. As soon as he's out of earshot, Morena asks,
What was that?
What? I ask, truly perplexed.
You two had so much chemistry together on that dance floor, you might need to take a pregnancy test.
She teases me. What? No, I say, but Trixie is nodding her head in agreement with Morena's outlandish statement. Trying to convince them, I add, we're just friends. When it becomes obvious that they don't believe me, I continue, trust me, I won't need a pregnancy test after this month is over. They both give me pursed lip looks that silently say,
Yeah, right?
Feeling naughty, I add, I'm on the birth control pill. With that, I saunter out of the restaurant and leave the two of them gaping and giggling.
Chapter 10. Something indescribable shifted tonight in my relationship with Emmy. Being with her friends was fun, and it helped me get to know her on another level, but it's not just that. She seems different now, like she's looking at me through fresh eyes. When we arrive back at her apartment, she offers to let me use the bathroom first, indicating that she wants to take a shower to get rid of the grilled pepper and onion smell lingering on her from the restaurant before going to bed. As I move to take her up on the offer, I could swear I hear her say something about me joining her in the shower. I freeze and ask her to repeat what she said. She gives me an innocent, wide-eyed look.
I said don't take an hour.
Once in the bathroom, I lean back on the closed door. I'm almost positive that she didn't tell me not to take an hour in here, but I'm not certain if she actually mentioned us showering together. The mere idea of her making such a bold, wonderful suggestion has me redacted. I turn the shower spray to icy cold, strip down and get in. The frigid water does the trick for my redacted, but it will only be a temporary fix if Emmy starts making racy suggestions. It's already practically impossible to keep my ill-advised promise not to touch the irresistible woman this month. If she starts flirting and purposely tempting me, my barely contained desire for her is bound to break loose. When I emerge from the bathroom, my eyes nearly pop out of their sockets at the sight of Emmy puttering around the apartment in just a t-shirt and underwear. It's all I can do to hold back from redacted. The woman is definitely up to something. If I'm not careful, my body is going to spontaneously combust from all of this redacted. She brushes by me as she walks to the bathroom. I do my best to ignore the raging urge to run after her when she peeks out at me through the crack that she has left in the bathroom door. It takes all of my willpower, but I manage to turn away. At the sound of the door quietly closing, a large puff of air releases from my lungs as I pick up my phone and attempt to distract myself from my raging hunger for her. I climb into bed, hoping to be asleep by the time she comes out of the bathroom. Unfortunately, that plan doesn't work. I'm acutely aware of her every movement around the apartment, even though she tries to be quiet. When the other side of the bed sinks down, I stare at the ceiling and try my best to think of anything except reaching out to her. Emmy places her elbow on the barrier pillow between us and rests her head on her fingertips. Looking down at me, she says,
I was hoping you'd still be awake.
I should tell her to be quiet because I'm trying to get to sleep, but the words refuse to form in my mouth.
Going out with you tonight was really fun,
she says. I agree, not trusting my voice to say more than that. She uses her free hand to trail the back of her index finger along my jawline. I hiss in a breath at the tingling trail her tender touch creates. You shouldn't touch me. The words come out between gritted teeth.
Why not?
She asks, sounding as if she truly has no idea of the intense battle warring inside me. Because I'm not as strong as you seem to think I am. I can only sleep in this bed right next to you, and hold myself back from touching you for so long. The words come out louder than I intend. In the moonlit room, it's easy to see Emmy's long lashes fluttering as she processes my words. Eventually, she asks in a tentative voice,
You want me?
Of course I want you, I answer vehemently. How could I not want you? You're gorgeous, hardworking, loving, funny, caring, strong, smart, and one of the most all-around amazing people I've ever met.
Those are all words that I would use to describe you,
she whispers before leaning down to lightly brush her lips across mine. I hiss in a breath and force myself to turn away. You're killing me here, Emmy. At her confused gaze, I remind her, I promise not to touch you this month. With a wide grin, Emmy picks up the pillow between us and tosses it aside. Leaning close, she murmurs,
I officially release you from that silly promise.
Her words are thrilling, but I don't want to lead her on. I can't make any guarantees about the future. When this month ends, I'll be going back to the city, to run my empire. Wanting to make sure I'm crystal clear with her, I add the single word, alone.
I know. It's okay.
Her lips are so close to mine, I can feel her soft puffs of breath. My breath is coming in shallow pants when I verify, you're sure? Rather than responding verbally, Emmy leans in and presses her full, supple lips to mine. Reacting instantly, I pull her into my arms and kiss the magnificent woman senseless.
Chapter 11. I'm lost in a swirling, giddy world of passion and happiness. Kissing has never before caused such a world-shifting, visceral reaction that leaves my entire body zinging with anticipation. When we pull back, Dane's fingertips create a silky, soft trail along the curve of my neck, leaving me breathless and aching for more. My eyelids grow heavy under his seductive, burning gaze. The warm, melty sensation in my stomach spreads out to my limbs, leaving them weighted as if I am pinned down, even though we are side by side. I sense the barely contained danger of his heat and power, but nothing could keep me from loving his body with mine in this moment. Every single one of my cells craves his touch and demands his attention. He whispers,
I want you so much.
Yes, I murmur, consumed by my need for him. We're drawn together once more. His arm wraps around my waist and molds me to him as we kiss. My entire body shudders with desire as I wiggle closer to him, pressing redacted. He lets out a primitive groan.
I'm not going to be able to take things slow if you keep redacted.
Going for complete honesty, I say, we have the rest of the month to go slow and fully explore each other. Right now, I just want to feel redacted. My words unleash an unprecedented degree of passion from Dane. His hands, lips, and tongue are redacted, firing my skin with bursts of explosive hunger for more. When his fingers redacted, I press into his touch. We moan into each other's mouths. I've never wanted anyone this much, and I doubt I ever will again. I crave this man on a molecular level. I reach down to redacted. We pant into each other's mouths as we explore redacted. Suddenly, redacted isn't nearly enough. I need to feel redacted. In perfect tandem, I slide my hand redacted. We both tip our heads back and savor the smoldering heat our hands create. I redacted. He grunts out the words,
I need you now.
I don't hesitate for even a moment. Tipping up, I redacted. Dane makes quick work of redacted. Once we're both redacted and facing each other in the dim room, Dane cups my cheeks with his palms and gives me a tender kiss as if I am the most precious being in the entire world. When he tips down to redacted, I redacted. He shakes with the effort of holding back as I redacted. When he leans down to press his lips to my forehead, I redacted. We both sigh as he redacted. My movement causes Dane's carefully held control to snap. He begins redacted. He surprises me by redacted. He looks deeply into my eyes and says in a firm tone,
Redacted.
As if I have any other choice. My body is demanding that I do just that. My skin prickles as I redacted.
You're so beautiful.
He murmurs as I redacted. His sweet words, matched by the adoring look in his eyes, give me a surge of confidence I've never before experienced in the bedroom. My inhibitions sail away, and I redacted. As his thumb redacted, lost in sensation. His redacted. Suddenly, my entire body lights up as I redacted. Redacted. I shiver as the aftershocks redacted. He wraps his arms around me in a tight redacted embrace. After pressing a sweet kiss to my temple, he whispers,
That was even better than I imagined.
I murmur, fully relaxed and content. We're drifting off to sleep when my cell phone begins blaring. Tension suddenly tightens my body, since no one calls at this time of night with good news.
Chapter 12. I can tell by Emmy's concerned expression, as well as her half of the phone conversation, that something is terribly wrong. She tells the caller that she'll be right there, hangs up, and begins darting around the apartment, tossing on clothes. What can I do to help? I ask, willing to do anything for her, and wanting her to know without a shadow of a doubt that she doesn't have to face whatever this is alone. She pauses briefly and runs her fingers through her hair. Her voice is monotone and edged with sadness when she says,
That was the night vet from work. Crush is sick.
The distraught look on her face breaks my heart. I would gladly do anything in my power to ease her worries. As she grabs her keys and races for the door, I say, You're too upset to drive. Let me take you in my car. She doesn't even object to my suggestion, which lets me know that she's out of her mind with worry for the dolphin she loves so much. I tap my fingers on the steering wheel as I speed the short distance to the lagoon. If something happens to this darn dolphin, Emmy will be devastated. As soon as I roll to a stop in the parking lot, Emmy lunges from the vehicle. Rather than following her, I start making phone calls. It may be late at night, but money talks. People tend to jump through hoops to do my bidding when they find out they can name their price. After tracking down an elite team of the world's best marine biologists and aquatic veterinarians, I instruct Lisa to use my private jet to get them down here immediately. The efficient woman takes over, and I know she'll figure out the logistics. With that settled, I go to check on Emmy and Crush. The woman is in the water with the dolphin, giving him a rub-down. When I sit down on the edge of the dock near them, she says,
He's lethargic, he won't eat anything, and he didn't want to go out to the ocean tonight with Star and Einstein. He never skips his open water swim.
Her voice is so sad, I long to reach out to her, but I sense that isn't what she needs from me right now. Showing my strong take-charge side, I say, I have a team of the best marine mammal specialists on their way here now. They'll be able to figure out what's wrong with him and get him feeling better. The awestruck look she gives me makes my heart melt on the spot.
You did that for Crush? You don't even like him, and he spits in your face every chance he gets.
You love him, and that's all that matters. If he's important to you, he's important to me. We won't let anything happen to him, I assure her. It's not a promise I should be making. If Crush is too sick, he might not make it until the medical team arrives. But I can't let that concern show. Emmy is already worried enough without me adding to the mix. The staff veterinarian comes out to talk to us, but he is obviously in way over his head with Crush's mystery illness. The older, caring man's gray hair is poking out in every direction. He flails his arms as he tells us that he has already tried everything he can think of to help the listless animal, but nothing is working. There is no denying the relief that overtakes his features when I share the names of the specialists I have enlisted to help.
Very good. They'll be able to figure out what's wrong with the poor fellow,
he tells us before shuffling back to his lab. Once he's gone, Emmy gives me a soft look as she says,
You don't have to stay here. You must be tired. I can catch a ride home with one of my coworkers once Crush is feeling better.
If you're up all night with a sick dolphin, I'm up all night with him, I say, wanting her to realize that I'm in this with her. The loving gaze she gives me makes my heart leap in my chest. Needing to be near her, I ask, Do you think it would upset Crush if I joined you in the water?
No, dolphins are very intuitive beings. They sense and feel our emotions. You calm me, and he relaxes when I relax,
she says. As I pull on one of the facility's new shorty wetsuits, I say, I'll get out immediately if you sense that my presence is bothering him, but I really want to be here for you. She nods her head and instructs me to get a life vest like she's wearing so I don't have to work to stay afloat. Once I'm suited up, I slide into the warm water. As I swim out to Emmy's side, I'm careful not to get too close to Crush since he doesn't fully trust me yet. In a lame attempt to lighten the mood, I say, Wow, he must really be sick. He didn't even try to spit at me. Emmy gives me a half smile.
He only does that because he senses how much I like you, and he's jealous. It's all in good fun, though.
I'm not sure about that last bit, but I don't argue with her. Instead, I take her hand in mine, while we both float on our backs and keep the sluggish animal company. It's oddly peaceful, spending the night in the water with the two of them. I don't remember the last time I just rested with my own thoughts. The sun is just starting to peek over the horizon when a flurry of activity rouses us. The team of specialists is here, and they waste no time in getting into the water and assessing Crush. Not wanting to be in their way, I reassure Emmy that he's in good hands and emerge from the water. I'm not surprised when Emmy stays behind, obviously wanting to monitor what's going on with Crush and help keep the animal calm. After I shower off the lagoon gunk and put on fresh clothes from my locker, I feel like a new man, even though I didn't get a wink of sleep last night. Since the grueling work around here is never done, I decide to start cleaning the saltwater aquariums. I'm heading to the supply closet to get the gear I need, when my cell phone jingles in the pocket of my shorts. The housekeeper from my new mansion here in Key Largo is on the other end of the line. She's clearly upset, which makes her distinct accent even stronger. Please slow down. I'm having difficulty understanding what you're trying to tell me. It sounded like you said something about a baby, I say, fully confused. My cell phone nearly drops from my hand when the woman yells,
"That's right, Mr. Wilder. A woman left your baby at the house."
Chapter 13. The team of professionals that Dane hired to help Crush wastes no time in getting to work. They assess him and deliberate about what might be causing his illness. After testing the water in the lagoon, they determine that the filtration and aeration system isn't doing a good enough job to keep the water from stagnating. The lack of enough circulation, as well as a near-constant parade of boats, make the small section of water a breeding ground for bacteria and a holding area for leaked chemicals and gases. Guilt floods my system when I overhear their concerns about the sanctuary's water condition. Hoping I don't sound as defensive as I feel, I say, Crush is free to come and go as he pleases. He goes out to swim in the ocean every night. I don't want this elite team to think I would work someplace that doesn't take good care of its animals. The man with the kind, grandfatherly face and short white beard pauses and turns to me to say,
It's obvious that you truly care about Crush, and that you do your best to make sure he gets everything he needs. That will be a much easier task when you have a fresh seawater exchange in place.
That sounds really expensive. I bite my lip, concerned that this added expense might be what pushes us over the edge of Dane's patience. I'd been hopeful that his time spent here getting to know us and the facility might help me convince him to keep our little oasis open, but a fancy new water system isn't going to help with that mission. The only female in the group of specialists chuckles before saying,
Don't worry about that. Mr. Wilder said money is no object when it comes to Crush's health. We'll have this place up to snuff in no time. When we're done here, dolphins from all over will be waiting in line to get inside.
I grin at the mental image of a queue to get in, like we're the hottest dolphin nightclub in town. It's all I can do to keep the happy tears at bay as the team sets off to make the necessary arrangements. After searching for Dane and coming up dry, I grab my phone to call and thank him. His voice sounds off when he picks up. Deciding he's probably just tired, I say, Your team is absolutely amazing. They already have a wellness plan put together for Crush and the other dolphins, and they are completely overhauling the water system. I can't thank you enough for pulling this together. Although I infuse my voice with sincerity and enthusiasm, Dane sounds completely distracted when he responds.
Oh, I'm sure. No problem.
Is everything okay? I ask, suddenly concerned that he might be more than just sleepy. When it hits me, I cover my mouth and gasp. Oh no. You lost your bet with your friend because you spent so much money to help us, didn't you? I hope it wasn't too big of a wager.
What? Oh no, the bet was only for $100.
He answers in a monotone voice, as if this is the most normal thing in the world. I can't stop the snort from emerging. Granted, $100 would be a significant bet for me, but for Dane it's probably like betting a quarter. When he remains silent, I say, You upended your entire life and came down here to work your butt off doing dirty grunt work while staying in my cramped apartment for a $100 bet? Disbelief drips from my tone, since I never would have imagined he would bother with such a small wager.
It was more about proving that I could do it than the money.
His voice is too quiet, so I ask, "What's wrong? You sound upset." Silence greets me for a long moment. Eventually, he answers,
I have something to tell you, and you're probably not going to like it.
My heart drops as I wait to hear what's wrong, but he doesn't immediately explain. Pressing the phone closer to my ear, I ask, "What is that noise?" It almost sounded like a baby. My body goes still and my mouth falls open at Dane's flat response.
Yes, it is a baby. It's my baby. Chapter 14. Emmy sounds completely freaked out by the surprise baby news. I can't blame her for that since I'm in shock over it myself. She starts rapid-firing questions at me, but rather than trying to explain it over the phone, I ask her to come to my house so we can discuss it in person. When I see the car of her work bestie, Margot, pull into my circular driveway, I feel like a heel for forgetting that Emmy rode to the facility with me last night. It's likely that I won't have to worry about that too long because as soon as I answer the door with this baby girl in my arms, Emmy will have too many questions for either of us to concentrate on my uncharacteristic lack of manners. As expected, Emmy's bewildered gaze travels back and forth between me and the swaddled infant I'm holding. She doesn't even bother to turn around to wave goodbye to Margot. Instead, she barges into my new house as if she's been here 1,000 times, even though it's actually her first visit. Whirling around, she asks,
"She's your baby?"
I'm not sure. Maybe. Probably. I answer to the best of my ability, before handing her the note that was left in the infant's car carrier. Emmy's eyebrows scrunch together as she reads the hastily scrawled words aloud.
"I'm sorry, but you can take much better care of her than I can."
She flips the letter over looking for more, just like I had. Turning her wide-eyed gaze up to me, she asks,
"Who is this from?"
I wish I knew, I answer before explaining further. My security cameras showed someone in a gray sweatshirt with the hood up, leaving the baby on my front porch this morning just before dawn. The video didn't capture the person's face or vehicle, but I have my top-notch security and investigation teams working to figure out who it is. Emmy looks as bewildered as I feel, so I add, my housekeeper found the baby when she showed up for work this morning. All that was left with her was a small diaper bag and this note. With her eyes narrowed, Emmy says,
"But you've never even lived in this house. How would anyone know you own it?"
I can't help but sigh before answering. My shell corporation that I used to purchase this house got doxed online a few days ago, courtesy of the LifeChat data breach. It wouldn't take much digging to associate this address with me.
But this note doesn't use your name or say that you're the baby's father. The person who left her here might have intended to give her to someone else.
I nod, knowing where her mind is gone. Hoping to ease some of her concerns, I say, that is quite possible. We've already had blood drawn for a DNA test to see if this little one is mine. In the meantime, it looks like I'm the only one to take care of her until we find out the truth and figure out a plan for her. Emmy practically falls into a nearby chair and stares blankly at the newly installed custom Venetian tile floor.
I can't believe this.
I sit in the chair beside her with the baby cradled in my arms. Me neither. When it rains, it pours, huh? Emmy's eyes move to mine. It's almost like she's seeing me for the first time when she says in a faraway voice,
"It's so strange to see you holding a baby. You're a natural with her."
I gaze down at the bundled, snoozing cherub. It's actually my first time ever holding an infant, but she's an absolute angel. Would you like to hold her? Emmy's eyes widen in obvious alarm. Her voice comes out in a high-pitched squeak when she says,
"No?"
My head whips back involuntarily at her vehemence. Tempering her tone, Emmy adds,
I just don't know anything about caring for babies."
I don't either, I assure her. Since her face is still pinched with concern, I add, but this little one needs us. We're all she has right now. I will hire someone to help us take care of her, but in the meantime, we can take it day by day and figure it out together. The woman's head shakes back and forth as she stares at the tiny bundle in my arms.
I'm sorry, but I'm not ready for this. It's too much. I can't do this.
After uttering those solemn words, she lunges from her chair. Covering her mouth with her hand to absorb a sob, she runs out my front door. I'm so shocked by her abrupt departure that it takes me a few moments to react. By the time I place the baby in her carrier and hurry after Emmy, the woman is nowhere in sight. She must have left on foot, but I don't know which direction she went. Gazing down at the adorable sleeping form in the carrier and trying but failing to keep the heartbreak out of my tone, I say, I guess we're on our own, little one.
Chapter 15. I run as far as my legs will take me from Dane and the baby. By the time I stop, I'm winded and my side is cramping so hard that I grab it and double over on myself. Even though I know this isn't Dane's fault, or the innocent infant's, I can't stop the terror from icing my veins at the mere idea of being responsible for the tiny human. When the car pulls up behind me, my fight or flight instinct kicks in, until I realize that Morena is behind the wheel. Relief surges through my system, then I walk back and climb into the passenger side of her vehicle.
Everything okay?
She asks with true concern shining in her eyes. Yeah, I answer automatically. At her steady gaze, I go for honesty and practically wail the word, no. Morena listens intently as she drives me to work. I share all of the wild events from the past 24 hours, including the mind-blowing redacted with Dane, Crush's mystery illness, and the surprise baby that showed up on Dane's doorstep. I have no idea how to raise a baby, I tell her, as her tires crackle on the marine facility's gravel parking lot. After pulling to a stop, she turns to look at me.
Does Dane?
No, but she's most likely his child. Why else would her mother leave her with him? Although I think I'm being completely rational, Morena is frowning at me.
So let me see if I've got this straight. One of the most wealthy, powerful, and handsome men in the world saunters into your life and makes you an incredible deal that you can't refuse. He works tirelessly by your side and ends up charming his way into your bed where he completely rocks your world. When an animal that you care about becomes ill, he uses every resource at his disposal to help. Then when a baby that he knew nothing about is dumped at his house, you immediately get scared and bail on him.
Staring at my lap, I mutter, well, when you put it like that, I sound like a total jerk. I can feel Morena's gaze boring into me. When I finally look up to meet it, she gives me a raised eyebrow if the shoe fits look. Hearing her sum up my time with Dane so succinctly makes it painfully obvious that I am the one in the wrong. Ashamed of myself for not seeing it sooner, I say, you're right. I'll call him to apologize, but first I need to check on Crush. Morena nods her head in agreement with that plan. After I emerge from her vehicle, I lean down through the open door to say, thanks for the ride and for being such a brutally honest friend.
Anytime you need a kick in the rear, I'm your gal,
she says before flashing me a wide smile. Good to know. I return her grin before closing the car door. As I head toward the Dolphin Lagoon, I can't help but wonder if I should give Morena a dose of brutal honesty about her philandering husband, since my subtle hints and gentle suggestions don't seem to be working. Deciding that's a question for another day, I pick up my pace as soon as I see the gathered group on the dock near the dolphin pond. The normally serious expressions of the experts brighten at my approach, which I take to be a very good sign. The woman takes charge by informing me.
The new water exchange system is working and Crush is showing marked signs of improvement.
Already? I ask, delighted by how fast they have worked. The grandfatherly man answers,
When money isn't a consideration, progress happens at light speed.
beaming down at the dolphin in question as he eyes me from the water. I say, I guess so. Speaking directly to Crush, I ask, how about if I go make you a delicious fish smoothie, sweet boy? The dolphin reacts immediately, bobbing his head to affirm that suggestion. We all chuckle at his playfulness, relieved that he's no longer a listless blob in the water. Suddenly concerned, I ask the group, is it too soon for me to feed him?
I think it's best to get him back to his normal routine as quickly as possible and he needs to eat something.
The woman weighs in. Heads nod all around in agreement. Okay then, I say, already whirling around to mix up a concoction of his favorite foods. All 3 dolphins are beside the dock begging when I return, almost as if they could hear the blender whirring in the kitchen and grinding up their favorite treat. Once the animals are fed and happy, I leave them in the care of the specialists and head to the employee break room. After washing my hands, I grab my cell phone out of the pocket of my shorts. It's a bummer to see that I haven't missed any calls or messages from Dane, but I can't really blame him for not reaching out to me after the way I ran away from him. I just hope he can find it in his heart to forgive me. He picks up before I even hear the ringing tone. At the sound of his voice, my words come out in a rush. I'm so sorry for running away like that. I panicked about the baby, but I've come to my senses. If you have a baby, then I have a baby. I'm in this with you for the long haul, no matter what. If you want me. My heart races in my chest as I await his answer. Those last 4 words sum up my biggest fear. If he doesn't want me in his life, my heart will shatter into a million pieces.
I was just getting ready to call you.
The cryptic response doesn't give me any answers. My heart is on the line, so the wait for him to continue seems interminable, even though it's likely only a matter of moments.
The DNA test came back. The baby isn't mine.
He reveals. Air whooshes out of my lungs at this news. I thought this outcome was what I wanted, but something that feels a whole lot like disappointment bends my neck forward as I stare at the break room floor. Are you okay? I ask him, wondering if he feels the same crushing weight on his chest as I do.
Yes, it's probably for the best.
He answers in a somber tone. I'm not sure how to respond to that. Instead I say, Crush is doing much better.
Yes, I received an update that he was feeling better. That's very good news.
He says, sounding sincere. I can't thank you enough for helping him. My voice cracks with emotion.
Of course.
He answers as if the mountains he moved aren't a big deal. Before I can object that he went above and beyond for us, he adds,
My investigation team tracked down the baby's mother. I'm on my way there to speak with her now. Would you like to come along?
I don't even have to think about it for a second before saying, yes, I'd love to join you.
I'll pick you up from work in 5 minutes.
He responds before signing off the call. As I walk out toward the parking lot, I can't help but wonder if his invitation for me to come with him to confront the baby's mother is a good sign that he thinks we have a future together, or if it's our final mission with each other.
Chapter 16. I wave to get Emmy's attention since I'm driving a luxury sedan, rather than my zippy sports car. She jogs over and climbs into the smooth leather passenger seat. After checking on the snoozing bundle in the back, she asks me,
Whose car is this?
Mine. I had it delivered this morning since the Porsche isn't exactly baby-friendly, I answer. Giving me a look of disbelief, she scoffs before saying,
So, you just bought a new car and had it delivered? We really do live different lives.
I'd be happy to leave it down here for you after we get the baby situation settled, and I head home, I suggest. Although I had believed it to be a generous offer that would delight the woman, her face takes on a scrunched, perturbed expression, so I add, or not. I follow the GPS's directions to a ramshackle building on the edge of the highway. The women's shelter is in dire need of a fresh coat of paint, or better yet, a complete teardown and rebuild. I make a mental note to ask Lisa to make a generous donation from my charitable foundation. Emmy eyes me warily as I park the new car.
I think I'm starting to figure out why the baby's mom was desperate enough to leave her at your house.
I nod. Even though we don't know the whole story yet, it's becoming obvious that finances were likely a major factor in what must have been a very difficult decision for the new mom. Giving Emmy a sad smile, I say, luckily, a lack of money is something that I can easily help with.
Yeah, toss piles of cash or a new car her way. That will get her out of your life.
Emmy grumbles. It's obvious that she is talking about more than just the mother-daughter duo. But this isn't the right time or place to address her bitterness over my offer to give her this car. Deciding to deal with one problem at a time, I reach for my door handle and ask, "Are you ready to reunite this sweet baby with her mama?" At Emmy's nod, we both move to get out of the car. Even though I haven't had much practice, I easily unlatch the car seat carrier from the base in the back seat and carry the little one inside. When I ask the round-faced, maternal-looking woman at the front desk where we might find a woman named Danielle Ward, a teenager with greasy hair freezes in the hallway and turns to stare at us with wide, sunken eyes. The young lady looks as frightened as a skittish deer facing oncoming headlights, so Emmy says to her in a soothing voice,
We just want to talk to you, Danielle.
I'm starting to become convinced that she's going to run for it, when the teen tentatively nods her head once. I look to the woman at reception for permission to enter. If she recognizes me, she gives no indication of it, but she does guide us to a comfortable-looking, slightly messy living area. Emmy and I both decline her offer of a beverage, so she shuffles back to the front after saying to the obviously frightened girl,
I'll be right out there if you need me, Danny.
The girl hovers on the edge of a chair as if she is ready to bolt at any moment. Emmy and I sit on the well-worn sofa. Danielle's gaze is drawn to the bundle in the car carrier, so I say, "She's perfectly safe, but I think she misses her mom." Tears well in the young woman's lower eyelids as she says,
I miss her too. So much.
When the infant stirs, I carefully lift her out of the carrier and hand her to the young mother. It's obvious by the gentle way Danny holds the infant and the tender look she gives her that the teen loves the baby very much. Emmy says in a soft tone,
We aren't here to judge you, and you aren't in any trouble, but we would like to know why you left your baby at Dane's house.
I love Naughty, so I wanted to do what is best for her.
the girl says as tears begin streaming down her cheeks. Naughty? I ask. The girl nods.
It's short for Natalie. I've always loved that name, and it's what I called her whenever I talked to her in my belly. But you can name her whatever you want.
Natalie is a beautiful name, and it suits her perfectly.
Emmy assures her. At this approval, Danny's face brightens for the first time since our arrival. Taking advantage of the lighter mood, I say, "It's obvious that you love Natalie very much. I'd like to know why you chose to leave her at my house." Even though I was careful not to sound accusatory, tears once more begin streaming down Danny's red cheeks. She swipes the back of her hand across her face before answering.
I didn't want to abandon her, but after my parents kicked me out of their house for getting knocked up, I didn't know where to go or how to take care of her.
Looking directly into my eyes for the first time, she adds,
I don't want her to grow up on the streets, bouncing around from shelter to shelter or in foster care.
That's perfectly understandable, and it was a very brave decision you made to put Nati's needs above your own.
Emmy says, sounding truly impressed by the young mom's strength. Why did you leave her at my house? I ask.
I went for a walk with her to try to figure out what to do. When I saw that beautiful waterside mansion, I couldn't help but think what a magnificent place it would be to grow up in. It wouldn't be possible to be unhappy living someplace wonderful like that.
Danny's dreamy tone becomes edged with sadness when she continues.
Leaving her there was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I knew in my heart that it was what would be best for Naughty.
Giving me a half smile, she adds,
I wasn't sure about my decision until I pulled up my daily horoscope on my phone. It said that if I follow my intuition, abundance will flow.
Makes perfect sense to me, I respond, giving Emmy a wide grin. The woman rolls her eyes, but refrains from commenting about her disdain for horoscopes. Instead, she says,
We should reach out to your parents, Danny. I'm sure they are worried about you, and would want to know about their granddaughter.
Danny shakes her head vehemently.
No, they want nothing more to do with me or the baby. They made that perfectly clear. Besides, I recently turned 18, so they're no longer responsible for me.
Emmy presses her lips together and makes a sound, but doesn't push Danny further about her relationship with her parents. Jumping in, I say, since you're at this shelter, I'm assuming you don't have other family members who could take you and Naughty in until you get on your feet.
No.
Danny answers quietly. Or Naughty's father. Danny's voice is barely above a whisper.
No.
Shame makes her cheeks turn an even brighter shade of red. This visible sign of her embarrassment brings out a protective papa streak in me that I didn't even know I had. Well, that settles it then. You and Nadi are coming to live at my house. It's big enough that the two of you can have your own wing. Both women turn to give me surprised looks. Then the bristly teen shocks us all by lunging forward and giving me a giant bear hug.
Chapter 17. During our ride back to Dane's mansion with the teenager and baby in tow, Danny talks animatedly.
I can't believe I get to live in that awesome house with Nadi. My horoscope was right about abundance flowing. This is so much better than I ever even imagined.
Dane grins at her in the rearview mirror before saying,
It's not going to be all sunshine and roses. Taking care of a baby is hard work. We can hire some help, but Nati is your responsibility.
The teen nods before saying,
If I have someone who can watch Nadi sometimes, I'll be able to find a job so I can help out with the bills.
Dane's expression softens at the teen's sincere appreciation and willingness to do her part to pay her own way.
Actually, once you and Nadi settle in, I think it might be a very good thing for you to get a part-time job. Do you like dolphins?
I love dolphins.
Danny squeals. I can't contain the chuckle when Dane's eyes sparkle in my direction. Turning back to smile at the teen, I say, We can always use more help at the marine mammal facility where I work, if you're interested.
Oh, I'm more than interested.
Turning to beam at her baby, she says,
This day just keeps getting better and better.
After Dane parks the new car in his garage, he lifts Natalie's car carrier and leads us inside. As soon as he puts the baby down, Danny picks her up and cradles her lovingly in her arms. During a quick tour of the house, he shows Danny the nursery, which is already fully stocked with supplies. When he indicates that the adjacent room is the teenager's new bedroom, she slowly twirls in happy circles. She's obviously beyond thrilled by her room's huge closet, luxurious ensuite bathroom, and sprawling balcony that looks out over the canal. When Nadi fusses, Danny says,
I think she needs her diaper changed.
The young woman is already on her way to take care of that, when she turns back to say in a heartfelt tone,
It's such a relief not having to worry about how to get clean diapers for her. Thank you both so much. This is an absolute dream come true.
I nod, even though this is all thanks to Dane's incredible generosity. After the two of us head downstairs to the luxury kitchen, Dane spreads his hands wide and says,
This isn't at all what you signed on for, so I understand if you want to rush out of here. I'll have the entire amount of money I owe you for the full month wired into your account right away.
You think I care about the money? I ask, not bothering to hide the hurt feelings from my tone. Dane shakes his head and lifts his hand to cup my cheek.
No, but I also know you're too kind-hearted to leave me to deal with this alone, even if that's what you truly want to do.
I lean into his touch, savoring the delectable warmth of his palm. His eyes light up when I say, I don't want to leave you, Dane, unless that's what you want.
Absolutely not. I want you here.
He assures me. His features darken perceptibly before he asks,
But aren't you scared of becoming a mother figure to a teenager and her baby?
I squint my eyes at that thought. Let's consider it more of a fun aunt position. He chuckles, then warns me.
There are likely going to be long nights of listening to a crying baby.
Stepping closer to him and wrapping my arms around his middle, I look up and say, If you're up all night listening to a crying baby, then I want to be up all night too. He squeezes me tight before saying,
When you ran away, I was afraid I'd lost you forever.
After tipping up so my lips are a mere whisper from his, I breathe out the word, never. I just had a moment of freaking out. Looking deeply into my eyes, he says,
Just to be clear, we're talking about more than just this month, right? Because I'm planning to move my permanent base of operations to down here. I want forever with you.
I can't think of anything more wonderful than spending forever with you, I murmur. He's kissing me deeply, when a noise from the bottom of the stairs draws our attention. Danny shuffles her feet and says,
Oh, sorry.
No worries, but if the four of us are going to be living here together, you'll have to get used to seeing me kiss the woman of my dreams.
Dane tells her amiably. She's still staring shyly at the ground when she nods her head and says,
I'm so glad Naughty gets to grow up in a household filled with so much love.
Me too.
Dane agrees wholeheartedly before announcing,
This calls for a celebration. I'll make us Shirley Temples.
Danny and I grin at each other over the silly man's obvious excitement over the childish drink. The teen says in a droll tone,
You really know how to party.
Anything for my girls.
He answers as he heads to the bar to make our pink drinks. It hits me then that we're a family. It happened fast, and it may not be at all how I expected it to look, but it's better than anything I would have dared to dream. Epilogue. The upgrades Dane has already made to the Dolphin sanctuary are beyond impressive. I refuse to ask him for money for anything for myself, but I don't mind requesting things that would benefit my 3 favorite dolphins. And my generous billionaire is happy to oblige my every whim. He hired a permanent team of top-notch researchers and other professionals to turn this facility into a world-class operation, rather than just a run-down afterthought. He placed his trust in me by putting me in charge of the renovations, joking that he would give me a raise so I could be his second lowest-paid employee. I playfully smacked his chest, even though he was clearly teasing. My paychecks are heftier than I ever imagined to be possible. At my request, Dane also agreed to give all of my hard-working coworkers much-needed generous raises. Dane and I are standing on the brand-new, state-of-the-art clear glass bridge that extends over the facility, watching Danny interact with the dolphins, when he says,
She's a natural with them.
And they love her. Dolphins are excellent judges of character. I trust them implicitly, I murmur.
I don't know about that. Crush doesn't like me.
Dane says. He's just jealous of my relationship with you, I remind him. Grinning, Dane says.
Yeah, I was actually relieved when he spit in my face for the first time after his illness, because it was obvious that he was feeling better and getting back to his old self.
We both chuckle at the memory. Suddenly Dane turns to me and says,
We should get going. I have some surprises for you.
More surprises? I squeal, unable to hide my excitement. Tempering my tone, I say, You're too good to me.
Impossible.
He murmurs near my ear, sending a delicious shiver along my spine. It's tough to get Danny out of the water and away from her beloved dolphins, but the promise of getting to see her sweet baby does the trick. When we arrive at the house, Danny instantly walks over to relieve the nanny. The baby kicks her feet in excitement at the sight of her mother. After the mother and daughter head up to their rooms, the nanny flirts and tries to get Dane's attention, but he only has eyes for me. Giving up, the pretty woman says,
I guess I'll head out.
Once she's gone, I sidle up to my dream man and say, I love it that you no longer flirt with anyone else.
Why would I want to flirt when I have the best woman in the entire world right here by my side? I will always choose you, no matter who else is around.
His reassuring words are perfect. Tipping up onto my toes, I press a kiss to his slightly scruffy cheek, before releasing him and heading toward the fridge to get us some chilled water. Glancing around at the numerous colorful toys and baby implements, air puffs out from between Dane's lips.
It's interesting that the smallest one in this household takes up the most room.
He begins tidying up, since the housekeeping staff has already left for the day. Yeah, and she's even messier than I am, I add as I pour from the pitcher of filtered cold water. Dane tilts his head to the side.
I don't know about that.
I set the pitcher down and lunge playfully at him. He pretends to run, but lets me easily catch him. We're kissing when the doorbell rings. He pulls back and hints in an excited tone.
That's probably one of your surprises.
I'm less than thrilled by the astrologist in the midnight blue flowing gown, but Dane and Danielle hang on her every word. I do enjoy watching their eyes light up whenever the charlatan says something that aligns with their hopes and dreams for the future. When Dane asks her about the romantic alignment between Libras and Cancers, a deep V furrows between his thick brows at her response that at first brush these signs seem incompatible. But his expression brightens when she adds that if these two signs get over the initial hurdles, their shared values of deep, committed relationships can make a reliable, lasting bond. Dane and Danny listen intently to every generic statement, which could apply to anyone, that the woman utters in her lilting, mysterious voice. I politely excuse myself when my cell phone rings, but the two of them are too engrossed to take much notice of my exit. My brother Joe rarely calls, so I know he must have news. Wondering if it's going to be of the good or bad variety, I step out on the veranda to answer his call.
Hey sis. Sorry I haven't been in touch lately, and I don't have much time now, but I need your help.
This doesn't sound great, but Joe is my only sibling, so I'll gladly do anything in my power to help him. Of course, what do you need? His voice is tentative when he responds.
I hate to ask, but is there any way your super rich boyfriend could loan me some money?
My heart falls into the pit of my stomach. The last thing I want is for Dane to feel like my family is going to start showing up with their hands out, begging him for money. But this isn't typical of my brother. Joe is a hard-working small business owner who lives a simple life. He doesn't have extravagant taste, so I can't imagine why he needs money from Dane. I try to keep the disappointment out of my tone when I answer. I can check with him. What do you need it for? The connection crackles, making his response difficult to understand, so I say, sorry, what was that? It almost sounded like you said you need the money for bail. I scoff at the ridiculous idea of my straight-laced, even-keeled brother needing bail money, until he repeats,
That's right. I need bail money to get out of jail.
The phone nearly slips from my hand as 1,000 questions swirl through my mind at once. I don't have a chance to ask any of them, because Joe says,
I don't have time to explain right now, but I need $1 million wired to the Fulton County Courthouse.
$1 million? I gasp, wondering what kind of terrible crime my brother is being accused of.
I'll explain later. Thanks, sis.
With that, the line goes dead, and I'm left with far more questions than answers. I sit down on the dock and stare out at the water in the canal for several long moments, trying to process the surreal conversation with my brother. When Dane sits down beside me, he says,
You missed the end of our astrological reading, but I'll give you a spoiler. We are going to live happily ever after.
Good to know. I try to smile at the gullible, wonderful man, but the gesture doesn't reach my eyes. He instantly picks up on it.
What's wrong?
As soon as I explain the bizarre conversation with my brother, Dane calls Lisa and instructs her to wire the money. I gaze lovingly at my hero. You've never even met Joe, and we don't know what he's in jail for.
It doesn't matter.
Dane says in a firm tone. At my bewildered look, he adds,
He's your brother and you love and trust him. He's family, and I take care of my family.
I can't get over how generous you are, I say, leaning my head on his wide shoulder. He presses a sweet kiss to the top of my head before saying,
Don't worry about Joe. Whatever this legal hiccup is, I'll make sure it is fixed.
Thank you, I murmur, already certain that Dane will solve Joe's problem, whatever it is. Just when I think the man can't get any more perfect, he says,
This seems like a great time for your next surprise.
No, don't give me anything else. You're already far too good to me.
Impossible.
He murmurs. Completely ignoring my objection, he asks,
What would you do tomorrow if you didn't have any responsibilities and money was no object?
Redacted you, I murmur before turning to kiss the side of his neck.
Excellent choice.
He responds in a husky tone before adding,
But that's free and always available to you.
Enjoying this game of make-believe, I say, Okay then, I'd redacted you in a straw hut over the crystal blue water in Fiji.
Done.
He answers immediately. I tip back to look into his eyes. Grinning and obviously proud of himself, he says,
I've already cleared both of our schedules, and I have the private jet on standby.
But I start.
No buts.
He interrupts me in a no-nonsense tone.
What is the benefit of having unlimited amounts of money if we don't enjoy the perks of it?
I can't come up with a logical objection to that, so I climb onto his lap and say, I love you more than should be humanly possible, Dane Wilder. He wraps his loving arms around me as he responds.
Well, that's very good news because I'm right there with you, sweetheart. Why is Emmy's brother Joe in jail? Find out in the spicy Enemies to Lovers, Female Billionaire Romance, Georgia Guy. Are you curious how long Emmy's sweet friend, Marina, puts up with her cheating husband? Peek inside her life with the keys to my diary, Marina.